It is now 9:30. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Is there any adjustment that needs to be considered to the agenda? We need to talk about any adjustments to the agenda? If not, then do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
I'm just going to say I saw Cindy's hand, and then I heard. So
sorry.
I'll say Cindy.
It's okay.
Cindy moves to approve the agenda, and I think I heard you second.
But
is that
it doesn't matter.
Sure.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I was absorbed in it.
I'm Cindy and
Jeffrey.
I can give it away to you. That's fine. I do
Cindy and
not care.
Maureen.
Oh, Marie.
Yes, Cindy moved, Maureen
Okay.
seconded, and no more discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It unanimously passes. All right, so we'll move on to approval of the March 12th minutes. Does anyone have any questions?
Because I wasn't here, I can't comment.
I have a few quick ones if we can. In the old business under digitized scrapbook, where we have the city has the platform Canva should do this for us. That doesn't mean the city's going to be doing our scrapbooks anymore going forward, right? Okay, good.
No.
Just making clarification.
But I did talk with, I had a meeting with Longmont Public Media the other day just to talk about them potentially being like a vendor for weddings and some other things. But through that meeting, actually, because they record our videos, Sergio, their owner operator, heard us talking about the scrapbooking program and was interested in that. And long story short, we think that they can probably help with the audio, potentially video piece,
Wonderful.
which would be great. I know that we had some other folks that might be interested as well.
Can we talk about that when we get to it in the agenda? That way.
Sorry.
We're going through the minutes, and
we're just talking about the minutes.
just having a few quick questions about the minutes, and then we can move along, and that'll be great information to share at that time.
Sure.
Okay. Thanks.
It's scrapbook, and I just went for it.
Yeah. Well, it's exciting news, so I can't wait to hear the rest of it. Then on the second page of the minutes under paragraph F, when we're referring to, as per recommendation of the fencing companies, additional chain link fencing above the existing top bar above the fencing, the language is a little obscure and confusing, which is why I put in a kind of a suggestion for change. But perhaps can we just refer to the image that was shared with us at the meeting last month? Because I think that was the one everyone saw at last month's meeting, and that's the image that is proposed. Am I correct?
Do you want to look at it now, or you want it
No.
notated in the minutes?
If it could just be included in the minutes that it is in reference to the image that was provided and showed to the board during the board meeting, because I don't remember, and I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that I ever saw that image included in a packet or anything. So I think that was a little bit of a different.
It was
2 months
initially.
prior.
Yeah. When I saw it.
With the fencing coming up over the top bar.
Yeah.
Let's take a
Over
quick
the
peek.
top bar?
Yeah.
Not that I remember.
Let's take a quick peek if you don't mind.
Yeah, the initial quote was for it.
Well, it was, but the image was not the same as what we saw last
The
month.
image from the
Yeah, there's only been one image.
the February 12th packet.
That one, yeah. But the one from the February 12th does not show.
But it has a line representing
has
Yes.
how far up
But
the
the
chain
image we
link
saw.
goes.
It doesn't have
There's
any more
only
chain link.
one
It just
image.
has the line.
Oh.
It has
So
the
the
line.
images
I
are,
remembered seeing an image of chain link fencing going up over the barn, kind of.
not the chain link itself. I mean, they took photos back here and then did, drawings of
They
where
just
the
did the
Okay.
bar.
would go.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so
Then
that's
let's
the only
just
one we've
refer
seen.
to just that image that was shared with us in the
February 12th
February
packet.
12th
Okay.
packet. So that we have an image to refer to. Just
Okay.
clarifies things.
So after Auto House was recommended, I would say as shown in the image from the February board meeting.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah. And then with respect to the lighting between the gazebo and the garden shed coming from the electric trench, that location has not yet been decided. So I just want to make sure that we're not identifying a location here. That's not what
That
we're
was the
doing, right?
location that was discussed.
Right.
But it wasn't.
It wasn't decided. It was not determined. And actually, we had requested locations be
Options.
offered. Yeah, options as far as,
So
potentially
you
the
just say
perimeter.
security lighting could be included in this project.
Potentially.
But the location, or just put the location has not yet been decided. And really, because the lighting would provide for that area, but the location of where that light post, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Sure,
Has
but-
not yet been decided.
Well, and we're not moving forward with that project right now, so what happened in the meeting is that I brought forth some ideas for the lighting, and that was the location that was discussed, but no decisions for the lighting have been made, and we're not moving forward with that at that time. So I think it could say that security lighting could be included in this project.
Okay.
As opposed to will.
Okay. And then the last question I have is that the new shed, is the name, are we officially calling it the events shed?
That's how we
Okay.
refer to it.
Just needed to for clarification. All right.
Where did you find that in here?
It was added in after
Thank you.
your draft. Brittany had added in events, and if that's the name and that's the official name
So we
going
can
forward,
refer
then
to the
we all
garbage
just
shed or
need
the
to know,
events shed. Yeah.
that is
Cool.
that's the official name of the new shed. It's the events shed. So, okay, thank you for the clarification. And that's all I have questioning about the minutes. Is there anything else? Anybody? If not, then is there a motion to approve the minutes as adjusted?
I move to approve the adjusted minutes.
Thank you. Diane.
As
Moves
discussed.
To adjust.
Seconded.
And Cindy seconds that motion. And I'm sure there's probably no more discussion, so all in favor?
Aye.
It is unanimous, thank you. I don't believe we have any public to be invited, or public invited to be heard here, so we will move on to old business. So scrapbook, let's hear the excitement.
So Longmont Public Media can help with the audio recording piece.
I think that's a good way to go.
Yeah, and the city's got a contract with them that we've got a certain amount of hours that they can offer to us each month. And if this did fall outside those hours, we can contract with them directly. But it's kind of
Nice.
something that's available, so it seems like we might as well utilize that. So he was just kind of waiting to hear if we want them to be involved, but I figured that would be a good way to go.
Good.
That
I'm very
sounds
excited about that.
excellent.
Thank you for doing that, Brittany.
Yeah,
Appreciate
and
it.
they also potentially, I know we talked about maybe some high school students, and that I think could still be a part of it, but they also potentially have access to like voice actors and things like that
Would be great.
could read. So we'll kind of go through it
nice.
however we want that to look. So but otherwise, my only other note about the scrapbooking is I wondered if we wanted to formulate a committee to work on the alternative text for those, because that's the only piece that we're waiting on right now for the first one to get uploaded.
And to be honest, I dropped the ball on that.
That's
I've
okay.
just been,
It's not a small task.
I will work on it. I just now getting my head above water, but it really had to be a back burner project
Sure.
for me at the moment.
But I think moving forward, because it is going to, we're going to have that for each one, and this one is small compared to the other ones that would be upcoming. It might be good to have some help, or at least
Additional
another
help, yeah,
person, or
that would be great.
to help you. So I don't know if
Anybody that
anybody
would
is
want to
specifically
help with
interested
the
in that
historian.
project. And what it would be is the photos, mostly photos, articles, certain pieces of the scrapbooks. Once we upload them into a PDF file and then we check it for accessibility, the PDF will come back and say this and this and this portion needs alternative text, which is really meant to be like a simple sentence or two in plain language that describes what the image or the article is. But going through, quite a few of those for each scrapbook, and the history piece about knowing what the thing is too, or figuring out what it is also there. So anybody that would be interested in that project, I think that would be helpful for Maureen to have some help with that.
And having dug through all of the scrapbooks myself, I can say it's really interesting history. So
It's
you
kind
might
of-
really enjoy putting in the time when you can to help with this project.
I'd like to sit down with you and look at it directly to make sure that we're both on the same page on what
Mhm.
I'm doing. Because I'd hate to spend a tremendous amount of time
Yeah.
and do it wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Okay.
So yeah, does anybody else want to be part of that project?
Oh,
I'd be interested in that.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Great, thank you, Jeff.
And Maureen, of course, I'll help as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Does that cover everything for today?
Yeah, that's everything for now for that.
Okay, and so then perhaps what we'll do is connect again next month on setting a day to
Yeah.
meet. Okay, all right. And then the updated video. How are we doing?
We're waiting on the next draft.
Okay.
So that's where we're at.
That's super. All right. Then on to the patrons of the Callahan House program. So obviously everybody has the mock-up of what Brittany took based off of what the committee drafted initially. So again, that meeting happened March 17th at noon. So the patrons of the Callahan House committee meeting was Monday, March 17th at noon. And from that came all of the ideas for the bookmark and the poster display boards. And from that, provided all of that to Brittany based on what you've received, those mock-ups. Can you talk a little bit about that? How are you?
I think it looks lovely.
Okay.
I like it. I am disappointed that we couldn't do the one back part from sideways, like what we talked about, for more visual interest. But what was the reason why we couldn't do that?
I don't know that we can't. I just, well, in terms of fitting all of the information, it was difficult. Plus, I just think visually it makes more sense to flip it and have it be. We want things to be, accessible and readable, and yeah, I don't know. It seemed strange to me, to be honest. But and also I didn't see how it was going to fit in that space. But I didn't try it.
Well,
But we
So
also kind of need to, if we want this.
we've got to get this
Yeah,
complete
we're gonna-
out.
Yeah.
Well, the objective we went from, or the focus that came out of the group was let's make something a bit artistic with this, so that it does provide artistic interest, kind of parallel with the house artistic. And so the reason of having one side vertical and the other side horizontal added that extra visual interest, made it more likely that someone would keep it rather than just toss it as if it were just kind of, plain old bookmark. And even though with about the content and the necessity for communications to be kind of left justified, artistically, I think it's acceptable to go ahead and center the content. It does look quite nice with the mission statement, and in our original mock-up from the committee, it actually looked quite nice
Having it centered.
having it centered.
Typical guidance from the city for communications is to have it flex aligned so that it is
Right.
more readable, but
But this isn't typical communication. It's
It's a
artistic
bookmark.
bookmark. So that was kind of the move.
Yeah.
okay, yeah,
behind
that's
that.
fine. I think
Yeah.
let's
Sure.
we can
Can we
make
move?
it centered. Yeah.
So we can center those.
If we could do it centered.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Like these two almost
a lot
kind
to
of say the
read
same
in
thing.
general. I think there's a lot there. So keeping it as concise as possible, and part of that was the left alignment, just because there's so much information in a small space. But
I think just a few of us sitting at the table are the only ones that are going to be concerned about that. I think we're going to hand a bookmark to somebody and they're going to read it one way or the other, and they're not going to say, oh, this doesn't look as visually appealing as it should look. So I think it's a moot point. I don't think it's something we need to battle over or make it a big deal. I think this looks quite nice, and frankly, I'm not sure you can get all that stuff on there going the opposite direction and still have your ends right here.
I think.
yeah, I think for the flipping,
I think the
horizontal,
the
that's
flipping
true.
for the text size, we would have to go with the smaller text, which makes it
yeah,
harder
which
to
is
read.
already
Mhm.
a bit difficult.
So yeah, I guess I'm one. visually, I'm a very visual person, and I personally thought it looked better centered, and that's just my personal. When I'm looking at something, it looks left heavy. So
Yeah, I agree. It usually looks better centered. It's just for readability purposes because there's a lot of text.
I think the
Well,
mission
but-
statement is set up,
Mhm.
it really sets off the mission statement to have that centered
I do like that.
opposite the left-centered pieces. I think it sets off our mission statement.
Okay.
The only thing that bothered me was on the backside, the patrons of Callahan House with the word always being hyphenated.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if it was
Yeah, I'll
center
justify
If it's
it.
centered.
justify, that might take care of that
Yeah.
issue.
Well, we can
Or,
Which
flip it to the
actually-
next line, but
yeah,
Yeah.
that was the only.
Yeah.
Leaves a whole lot of white space then on the right side. Just looks, I don't know. Can we maybe take a peek at it? Do a center of it, and then do the change where you just move.
I think
a
we
la
can just
Street.
make a decision now. If you want it
And,
centered, I'm not gonna.
I would prefer to have it centered, and if we could
Center
then
it.
move the
it's our
Callahan House mission statement up a little bit. There's quite a bit of white space right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do like the idea of there being a border, and it's fine that it's going to be both sides vertical. Okay. But the border between patrons of the Callahan House and the first paragraph, can you make that second divider, that swiggly,
The swirly thing.
swirly line?
We had
that
talked
big,
about that.
pretty- That's what we had originally put in the committee's mock-up. And so rather than having it so border heavy here, can we put that swirl there?
Yeah, I had put it in. I don't remember. I think just the look of it wasn't.
It didn't look great.
But I'll just put it in. Like I said, we just need to
Let's
move forward with it.
Okay,
So
let's go for it. Yeah, let's go for it. And then,
I'm very excited about this.
and then with the yeah, and then with the poster boards. What do you have to say?
I just want to back up a minute on this bookmark. I think the way it is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. My first reaction was there's not a front and back apparent, which is not bad. I do like the horizontal bit on the second, or what we consider the back side. And I know there's a lot of information there, but I'm looking at this thing now. On the back side, we have your contribution patron, the Callahan House. Is that really needed? If we want to make this more graphically appropriate, not having too much stuff on the back, of course, kind of saying that on the front.
Mm-hmm.
And if we eliminated that and potentially did a horizontal, then it definitely that it may be perceived as a front and the back. Front's information, back is our mission statement and address and stuff.
I think that's a really good idea, Jeff. I agree with that.
So
I
just
agree with
nix
that.
this whole paragraph.
Yeah.
Yep, I can live with that.
Yeah, it is very text heavy. I think that would,
Yeah.
not be a bad thing.
And then we could do it.
And then it
more
would go.
lineal.
Then you're saying that we could do
Do
the
linear.
hor-
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure how
Okay.
this works, as far as the Longmont and the green wallpaper works when it's horizontal, but we'll figure that out.
Well, I think we try it and see what we do, and then from there.
Maybe if we're eliminating a whole paragraph, we could afford to make the text a tiny bit bigger.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll just fit it to the
Great
space.
idea.
So, do you see Longmont? See Longmont being
Yeah, I
horizontal
see
also
that.
in some fashion?
I do see the city of Longmont being horizontal.
Okay.
That's and just take that off the back.
Yeah.
Brittany, did you
Remove it from the back. 'Cause it's
So just
already on the-
remove
Just
that.
remove
On the
Just
front.
remove the city of Longmont. Just remove it completely, and then yeah.
It's already,
This part, bottom part, I think.
Because it's already on the front.
And the picture of the Callahan House, and then the mission statement and
Yeah.
the addresses,
Okay.
contact.
And so, do
So
the
no
patrons-
wallpaper at all on the back if you're doing it horizontal, or are we doing vertical?
Well, it's horizontal, but I think I'd have to look at what you sent, but I think you still wanted something down here and something here, and then the little flourish. I don't know.
I'm sorry. What would?
I didn't think we did. I thought we wanted the Okay, so here's the question: are we going to leave the wallpaper on the back?
Good question. I don't
Well, I know the
know.
original request.
There's one.
Yeah. If you want to see that. original was
The original request didn't ask for wallpaper, it just
Right.
had that
It just had
squiggle
plain.
had
divider.
the simple.
Just the simple squiggle divider, and that's why you know the front
Yeah.
is the green in the front. That's the front, and then
Okay.
you know the back, and it's very visually
That's a
clear.
good idea, yeah.
Okay.
And they should just do the narrow strip on both ends. If you're eliminating this one, make that one a narrow green one, like this one.
It may
I think
not
there's
gives
no
you
come
enough
off
difference
as
being
well.
green on the back at all.
Not at all.
Yeah, it might not come off as well that way. And can you do, rather than stacking the address phone number,
If we do it long way.
we're doing it the same way that we proposed, right? Where it's kind of all
Yep.
long, okay.
So then
So-
when I send this out, if we can provide that feedback.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get any the last time, and so now we're.
So are
I
we
think
saying
that,
on the
I think the
back
pause was, it was probably best to just be all together and be able to talk rather than
Sure.
back and forth over an
Okay.
email, which would have been.
So, but we'll have to
challenging.
have this good to go, you know.
Good to go.
Before the.
But I think with those proposed changes, I
Can I
think
suggest?
it's perfect.
One last, just piece of clarification. So where, this is going to be the top of the one side, and the other side is gonna be,
Elongated.
the elongated. When we flip it, do we want the top to be at the left side of, in other words, do we want the top where the hole punch would be and a ribbon would be here, so that when they're flipping it, the ribbon and the hole punch is over on the
Yeah.
left side of, just a point of clarification, direction, orientation of that content on that side.
Yeah.
So when you flip it, this way the wording would be
Yes.
headed in
Yes.
this direction.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, you will
So you
have the
flip
hole
it
punch
over.
where my thumb is.
You got it, yeah.
And then, yes.
Right.
Okay.
Back that up again. Where's the
Hole
whole
punch.
punch?
Opposite of it.
Hole punch where my thumb
thought it-
is.
above the Callahan?
It would be the other end.
Wouldn't it be the other end?
Let's see. Sorry, I might have that backwards. Is it gonna be like that?
Yeah, it would be that way.
So you want the right side at the top?
So the right side is at the top, so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my,
That
Okay.
seems to make sense.
Let's do that.
Does that make
Let's do
sense?
that.
Okay.
And then regarding the post, are we able to go ahead and do the center justification,
Yeah.
just like we did in our example? Okay, let's do that. So that'll be for both the one on the tripod and then the one on the table as well. So, okay. Did the email message that we drafted and got to you for the patrons of Callahan House, or go to the Callahan House group email list?
I'm sorry, say that again?
It was the email that was meant, it's a draft email
Yeah.
that.
Has it already gone out?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Is this, I think my question in the email was, is this acceptable to send out? And so
is it,
is
can we
is
do
it-
that?
Is it
Yeah.
acceptable to send in, and will you be able to go ahead and send that out to the group?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Um,
And,
Sorry. Can we back up a moment on
Of
this?
On the poster?
Yeah. Now, as far as the portions, is this what we're looking at?
This was one of the two sizes that was asked for.
That proportion?
I'll bring it up, yeah, whichever one, let's see.
Yes, that body center.
Okay, it just seems a little.
Yeah,
little
you wanted
scrunched this
one
way.
30 by
does.
40 and
We
then
want
one
the
13 by
two
16, which I
emails
believe
like
this is the
that.
13 by 16.
We have the individual and the
The table
Those
It
are
size.
the
would help
letters.
if it's
Those
centered.
are to the
It
legal
looks so
department, the
squished on one
letters.
side,
Okay.
and then it kind of looks lopsided when you're looking at it visually.
I'll go through
That's
that
why I
again.
think
Those
center.
went- Those went to the legal department.
The
The
lettering.
email
Oh,
is-
oh,
message is
right,
what
right.
we were
Otherwise it
asking,
looks
is it
lopsided.
acceptable?
Yeah,
No.
Particularly if it's sitting on the
Very good
table.
point.
Okay, yeah.
To me, it just looked a little scrunched.
Yeah,
It
the
does.
proportions are, I don't think typical, but this is the size that was requested, so.
Oh,
Did we request the wrong size then? That's a
Oh.
I don't
question.
That's a
know.
question.
It's a 13 by 16.
okay, well, whatever is the typical size of the poster board, make it appropriate for, because I did a quick measurement of something that I had, and I went, that's a nice size, piece.
If that's
As long as they can
and-
print it like this.
and so-
If it needs to
If
be
they
tweaked,
more
then
have
we'll tweak it,
I basically what we're saying is if they have a standard size that they have in place, we just want the information on a standard size.
Yeah.
We were only working with what we had in the room, and we measured it really quickly.
Okay.
It's large enough to be good and visible.
Right.
That's
I mean,
it.
13 by 19 is a standard size
Okay.
paper. Not sure if the city works with that or not. But that would add proportion-wise, add 3 inches to the,
Yeah, and
to the height of
it would make it less scrunched.
Exactly, yeah.
So you're saying 13 by 19?
Yeah, I think so. Again, that is a standard size paper in the industry, but not necessarily what everyone uses.
Well, we
Was
use a
that-
printing shop, so they should be able to do
Right.
just
Would
about
that
whatever.
show up enough? I mean, it's on a large easel, there's an opportunity.
Well, this is
Yeah.
the tabletop size, and then you wanted a 30 by 40
Oh,
for a larger
So
one,
Okay.
tabletop
Okay, I
size is
getcha.
fine.
Yeah.
And I do think we do it center. If you're reading a document and you're getting a letter, I agree with having it left for reading ease. But if you're coming up to a table and you're looking at visually, to me this looks very lopsided and heavy. In fact, I find it annoying to read it this way. And again, I'm a very visual person, so yeah.
Okay. And so along with the donor information, the bookmarks and the display boards, can you also create a sign-up list for us to be able to have at the table and gather the name, phone, email, and mailing address? It's listed on that information table, what would be on the information table.
Isn't that something that we already have kind of standard, that we have
No,
a
I
sign
think-
up for when somebody comes and visits the house?
Are you
she
wanting a
just-
separate list of
Yeah.
just people that are interested in patrons
Yes.
to send them a separate communication?
Yes.
Okay.
And it is simple. It's just a column for their name, their phone,
And what
their
would be the
email,
separate communication
mail.
other than handing out this information that they could then go in and be directed to the
I think you're
patrons
talking
website?
about what would be available at the
It's-
site physically, right?
At the table
Yeah.
that we are going to have set up at the open house, with the tabletop, and then the display board, and then the display board on an easel. We're going to have, preferably we'll want a sign-up sheet, because if someone's coming along, they're like, yeah, I'm interested. Okay, yeah, go ahead and sign me up. Our objective there was to collect as many names of people who would be interested in the program, along with a phone, an email, and a mailing address.
I agree.
That's what we discussed in the committee.
And then what is your
and it
intention
what
for
was-
that list? Just to reach back out and say, just another reach out that says sign up?
Yeah,
To be
basically.
able to circle
Okay.
back with people if needed, and to be
Yeah.
able to begin.
I think an email and maybe a phone number, but I'm not sure what a mailing address. Or maybe just the email, because if people do fill out the form, that information gets collected.
If somebody doesn't want to use an email, what's an alternative?
Yeah, then you can get that as an alternative, but I don't know about requiring an address and phone number for everybody.
Okay.
What about, not everybody's going to be interested in this patrons
right.
deal.
Right.
So we're going to collect names of people that come in other than that, right?
Well, we have the regular sign up for an email blast list.
Okay.
Well, what if we do our regular sign up, and then we have a box on it that says if you're interested in this, they can check it. And then when the person there, we can say, why don't you check that box? Because then you can get more information this way. So this way it solves both issues. If people are just interested in the Callahan House period, they can get the regular thing. Now if they're signing up and they're interested in this, they can check it. And then we know there's more interest in this program.
Assumedly, the patrons' information is going to be available at all open houses
Mm-hmm.
moving forward. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we can make it part of the regular list, and then I guess the question is, do you want to, after each open house, send a follow-up for those that are interested in patrons?
Yes,
Okay.
I think that's the big thing. We want the additional follow-up and follow-through in the sense of, this is why we're really trying to make connections with those people. to get
Yeah,
more
I think
people involved.
then having it part of the regular email list is a good idea.
Okay.
Having a
That
what?
way people aren't having it part of the regular email list, that you can add that
So
Just a
instead-
box.
additional
so in-
interest.
So instead of having a separate at the patrons,
Yeah,
having it at the.
We have it,
sign-in,
we
having
have it at the
open.
patrons table anyway, but as a sign-up, but they can check the box and say, I'm interested in this program.
well, you
I
can have it
think
in
that's
either, you
duplication.
can have it in both places.
Yeah.
I mean, if
Okay.
you want one at the front and then
Yeah.
one here, or just direct people to go up and make sure they sign up at the front. But yeah, I think having it on the regular email list is probably best.
Okay.
Okay, how much is at the front in terms of bookmarks and posters? Is that all up at the front?
haven't
I
talked
think
about
the patrons
location
needs to
yet.
be in its own area for this, at
Yeah.
least as a trial run.
Yeah.
So I'm
Um,
wondering if
and the
people would
bookmarks and all
check that if they don't know any more about it.
Right.
Well, I think that's
Yeah.
why it's very important that you have a person there that is doing the sales pitch. Sorry, but that's really what it is. It's a sales pitch to get people involved. And it's like when you talk to anybody, well, I'm involved in this. Please consider being part of this. That kind of stuff. And along those lines, then, yeah.
One thing that could, if the bookmarks were at the door, in addition to near the poster, etc., they could take one and say, if you're interested, or you want to learn more about it, take a bookmark, and then they have that as a reminder to sign up as they go out.
I agree.
I mean, if we said, here's a bookmark about it, and we're collecting, we're looking to see who's interested on this sign-up list.
Yeah.
So on your way out, if you're interested, check the sign-up list.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we can I think there should be a main area where somebody's talking specifically about patrons, but there's no reason not to have some information at the front as well.
I had hoped that we could catch them both places. I'm one of those big people are. I think they're opportunists. If it's easy, they'll do it. If it's not, they won't. So if we make it the easier, the most simple way possible, that we catch them here, catch them there, whatever. So whichever person they see it, then they'll do it. Otherwise, if it's a hassle, then they won't do it. If somebody's walking out the door and they're saying, "Oh, but please go see the patrons person over there," they're going to say, "No, I'll do it later." It's easier to grab that bookmark and go. There's a certain point of just grabbing people.
Jeff, do you have something?
Just an observation, the front of this bookmark, there's nothing apparent about patrons.
That's what I was thinking too, and that's why I was like, ooh, can we stitch patrons of Callahan House, put it on the front, and then, but then would we be able to put the gate
I don't
on
think
the
it would
back?
fit.
And I don't know that that would really look so maybe keeping that. I know this is not an exciting thought, but maybe keeping that paragraph on the other side where it does say patrons of the Callahan House, because ideally that would be on one line, patrons of the Callahan House, and then keeping that content in could work.
Couldn't you take that bottom paragraph in the front and put that on the back where we said we would take out that whole paragraph? And then, then there's room to push that down a little and put patrons of the Callahan House
Get very
on
detailed.
the front page.
I
Getting
don't know.
over convoluted.
I mean,
Okay.
I do.
I'm fine with that.
I think
We let that go.
I think it's okay to give it. Oh, right. How many are we going to print? Say maybe a couple hundred, and you can get several off of one sheet of paper. Maybe why don't we do a first run of it, a couple hundred, to provide us with what we need for spring open house, and then we can look at how we've designed it and see if we need to make a modification. And
What
so
if-
if we can go
what if
ahead and
we-
do that as
But
it
this-
was on
in the same time,
proposed
we only
draft.
highlighted patron of the Callahan House.
Okay.
You guys decide and we'll put it
You guys
together.
are kind of close to analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
or-
I understand that, but again, this is important, and we're trying to get it done. So I've got a suggestion. What if we take that front paragraph where it says, "As a patron of the Callahan House, you can sustain or efforts to preserve." What if we unhighlighted all of it and only highlighted patron of the Callahan House? And bolded it.
I don't think this is that complicated.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just move some text and eliminate, we were gonna eliminate this paragraph anyway. and
But
then-
it's going to be
You
hard
want
to
those two
elongate.
paragraphs on the back, it can't be horizontal.
No. How about we just go ahead and go with what we proposed?
Yes, I think
Give it
so.
let's give it a run.
With-
It's okay.
With the horizontal in the back.
With the
Yes,
horizontal
okay,
on the
I'm
back.
fine with
So
Let's just
vertical
try
on the front, horizontal on the back, and the hole punch being on the right side of
yeah.
the text.
I-
Let's give it a run.
But you did say to eliminate that paragraph?
Yes.
Actually, because we don't have anything, this is a very
No
good point,
borders.
because there was no information about patrons of the Callahan House on the, there was no information about the patrons of the Callahan House on the first side.
I think
There
if,
is right there.
if we did it as originally
But
proposed,
it's not like its own tile, so it's a little.
if we did it as originally proposed, and we take out the borders, I think it'll be fine. If we do the original one that was proposed, it should fit, elongated, and everything that we originally proposed. We just take out the borders. It should fit.
Let's give it a run.
So that would keep this
We're
paragraph.
not doing a big
Yes.
deal. It's
And
a
it would
couple
keep the
hundred,
paragraph,
it's not a
and
big deal.
if we do it as originally proposed, it should fit.
Let's just do
We
it.
measured it, we sat there for
Yeah.
how many hours at that meeting,
Let's
and
just do it.
did this. Let's just do it as originally proposed. And
Are you
call it
saying
good.
keep this paragraph that we
Yes.
just
Yeah,
out?
yeah.
And do it
Keep-
originally as it was originally proposed, and we
Yeah.
just lose the two.
And while I understand
Borders.
you've cleaned up the content a little bit, so it's fine to keep the content cleaned up as you've done, just do it as originally proposed as far as the
I
orientation
think that's good.
and the content that's in it.
I think the print's gonna be too small, but we can give it a whirl.
Let's take a look.
We're
Yeah.
only going to print a small number, and then if we
Small,
hate
we
it,
can
we can
adjust.
change it.
Yeah. All right. So, how about the forms? Did legal approve the?
They haven't got back about it yet, but I don't foresee any issues there. We can just move forward.
So we'll have the
Um,
letters, the donor form, and yeah. that all.
Well, and that information in terms of how it translates online, which is what I have here. I'm ready to look
So
at that.
legal still has to
Yeah.
approve the letters.
I mean, it's with them. I don't know so much that they
Okay.
necessarily have to, but
We'd like them
What was
to.
it?
yeah, all the patrons docs that the board put together are with legal, but I mean, yeah, and those aren't, necessarily going to be used in their form anyhow, so we've got how that translates online here.
Okay.
So that leads me to that. So the link online is good to go. Are we ready?
Well, it's almost ready. So basically, let's see if I can do this backwards here. From the Callahan main page, this is the main page. So here with these other flags, we're going to have another one that's patrons of the Callahan House. And then that will take you to a patron-specific page, which is right now in a draft version. This isn't published online, but so I met with Ian, and this is how what you put together can translate in terms of like being on the website.
Cool.
So this is the patrons page. The very top paragraph of the letters is the sort of highlight here, and then click on each, and it's an accordion sort of a drop down to show. So this is basically the individual and family letter, and then the organization letter. So it
Oh, it looks very
how to
nice.
do it backwards, but so you can just like go through
You're very
the
skilled.
accordion on each, and then And then when you click on the become a patron, initially Ian had set up the form so that you get a pop-up here that says individual or organization, and then it takes you to the appropriate form. That has since broken down, but we'll get that sorted out. And then it goes into the form, this is an online form, but this is what, can't see where my cursor is. But this is what,
Okay.
it translates to in terms of an online form. And then after the form is completed, they get automatically redirected to the regular donations page. So they're not going to be separate, patrons donations and regular donations. It just all goes donated to one place, but somebody's filled out the form so we know that they've made
Good.
a patron's donation. So that's the gist of that.
That's great.
And there's a way for you to know when they go after they
Yeah,
go to the
then I'll get
donation,
an
and it's-
email when they have filled out the form and made the donation.
So is that in a draft format or is it live?
It's not live. No, we still need some pieces that I need Ian's help with, but he put together the form based on the form that you created, and I built the webpage, but we need those final connections when it's ready to go live. The only changes really to the form will have all the same information, but it's an online form. The only changes to the letter is that I pulled out that first paragraph since it was the same on both and just made it the heading of the page. And then the very bottom, some changes to that to just let them know what the process is for online. Go here, complete the form. Once you complete the form, you'll be directed to make your monetary donation online. And then it says if you have questions or need to fill out the form or make your donation in person, please contact the house manager at email or phone number.
Okay.
So instead of saying or mail it in, because there's not really a way for somebody to print it and mail it. But if they need to and they reach out, then I can send them the one that you created.
Nice.
Okay.
But it's not available to print online and mail. So, so this is going to be the most streamlined. And Ian did feel that having it, if you go into the donations and you're making a regular donation or you're becoming a patron, was that people that just wanted to make a donation were going to get
Confused.
turned off by too many things. So if you want to be a patron, then you're going specifically into there, but then all the donations come to the same place in the end. So.
Okay.
How's that sound?
Nice.
I think it's great.
When are we
Thank you.
planning on going live with it?
As soon as we can put all the pieces together. So it'll be available before the open house.
Wonderful. Thank you for all your work.
I think that sums up all of what we need to talk about regarding the work for the preparing for patrons of the Callahan House. Is there any other items to discuss about that? Okay, let's move forward to then. Future restoration and preservation. One second.
So in terms of the repointing, so we had reached out for 3 quotes. We got 2, we got 1, never heard from. 1 declined to quote, and then the quote from Empire. But we need to have 2 actual quotes to move forward. So there's been another company out that the city contracts with to get a quote. That was 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I haven't actually gotten a quote from them. So, and then we've got another company that is working on scheduling a time to come out, so that we need at least 2 quotes before we can move forward with that project. So that's where the repointing is at.
Did you
And that's-
inquire with those companies that I suggested?
Yeah, those were
Okay.
the 2 that 1 declined and 1 never responded to my several reach outs. So
Okay. From working with the school district, and this is why I think the verification on exactly how this process works is one of those things that I'm a little confused about and would like clarification. So what happens if you can't get 3 quotes?
we'll be able to for this. Well,
Okay.
we just need 2. We have to have 2.
And what happens if you can't get 2 and you only get the 1?
I don't know the answer to that
With the
hypothetical,
city
but
process?
It's not going to be a problem to get 2 quotes for this.
Okay.
we could run into that with the dining set, so I guess. we'll see.
That's one of those things why I wanted a clarification. There's got to be a process in place where it says, okay, if you can't find somebody else to do it, what do you do? There's something somewhere. It's just we're not aware of
Yeah, we'll tackle that if we need to.
it. Okay.
So that's where we're at with the repointing. But in terms of the dining set, I think where we're at with that is, a couple of questions. Basically being, is Questers able to pay for a project that's already been paid for? And I think the bigger question is, Questers has been interested in this project for almost a couple of years or more. And they were waiting on us to get a quote, which we finally got, and then now that we have that, we're talking about paying for this on our own. And does that sit well? I personally don't feel like it does.
Okay. Well,
Just asking, having them, say that they're interested in being able to pay for the project, and then just saying, oh, never mind, actually, we're going to do it on our own, but if you could reimburse us for those funds.
okay. Here's what I
It
know.
sends a message, so something to think about.
It does, but I am also going to get back to you on exactly on certain aspects.
Thank you.
So, Questers is hosting, and I'm going to put it out there so if anybody's watching this meeting, Questers is doing a couple of things in our grant process in which we wrote for the grant. We're going to be receiving a check for I believe it's a total of $3,000 on April 17th, in which I will get the check and it will be put directly to the Callahan house. It doesn't state specifically for this project, but we know that this is what it's designated for. In addition, we're also doing a fundraiser on June 7th and 8th, which is a garage sale, which we will be, all proceeds from whatever sales that will be going towards the dining room set. I've also been was in communication with the new state president, Connie, and Connie Boswell, and she has said that this will be her president's project. So all funds that are put through, and that's money from chapters towards it, will also go to this project. And I asked the specific questions: what happens if we do a project that's already been paid for? She said that doesn't matter, because the bottom line is, when we did the original quote, the quote was based off of one pickup. If we divide the project up, it's going to increase the cost, and therefore it kind of makes what we're doing when we wrote the grant initially off of those prices null and void. That's a problem. So I cannot guarantee that we will get the national funds, but I am going to be writing the grant for that. I have tried to get copies of the grant application. I have not been able to do that because they will not release the grant application in advance. It's too much of a conflict of interest, and that makes it harder for people that are applying. They open the date, and then you can apply. Those funds are for are done in 2026, and then they would not be even released to us until May anyway. But it seems to me, from looking at past projects and reading everything on that, there isn't an issue that we do apply for those funds. Now, they're all going into one pot and would be going directly to the Callahan house. So to me, if we pay for in advance, we first of all we apply for the original grant, which it states that it would be one pickup and one drop off. That is a cost issue, and that will increase our costs. So we as a board, in my opinion, have to make a decision if we should do that. And I personally think it would make it easier for all of us if we just did it in one shot and not have this constant interruption of back and forth. In addition, it would give us the person that we need that is capable with the expertise to do what we need. This is a project that's needed to be done for years in this house. It really has. And it is just as important as doing the pointing and everything else, because these are gifts that I hope to be here for generations. And so I personally think that we continue to move forward. I have 2 additional areas in which we will be putting funds for it. And this is going to be a project until it's completed that the Questers will continue to put more money towards. Now, can we get it right in one shot? No, I cannot guarantee that. Nor could I guarantee writing for the national grant that we would receive the funds in the first place. It's a grant process. I can't guarantee that at all because it's going to the national committee and they may or may not accept our project. From looking at, do we meet all the criteria? Absolutely. Do we fit it perfectly with past grants? Absolutely. Do I have high hopes that we would receive the funding? Yes, but is it a guarantee? No. No, it's not. So it comes down to, we have a fair chunk of the money put forward. We will continue to have a fair chunk of money put towards this project because we have a high interest in this. In addition to that, if we get it here so people can see it, we will be hosting the Quester State Fall Meeting here on September 18th. If they can see what they're working and putting the money for, they tend to put more money towards it. So that's one of those things that, and again, this is Connie's state project, and we know from doing past restoration projects, just a chair or anything else, it takes forever to get any restoration done. And finding a quality person to do it is huge. So I have huge encouragements, and I also would like to encourage that the Callahan House itself would help us maybe put information that at the garage sale, we're going to put information about Questers and what we do. But I also think that if people are purchasing and buying and they know it's going directly towards a specific project, they tend to, I'll pay $2 or $3 more for that item because of garage sale. So garage sale. No, we've got some great estate items, but even at that, it is what it is. So, I'm sorry.
Thank you,
No, thank
Marina.
you for
That
all the
was
information.
thorough, and we needed to hear that. I put together some thoughts, and I figured I would print it out so everyone would have a copy. So I'm sorry, I only printed 8 because I just go with our board and Brittany. So maybe Ben and Kirsten, if you could take a look off of.
Yeah, we're all sharing that
Yeah,
one.
but I'll read this just so that it's out there. So regarding restoration and preservation, given the current status with labor costs fixed, materials available, and funding in hand, moving forward with this project now offers cost certainty and allows us to hedge against inflation risk associated with the volatile market conditions. While the time value of money suggests that there could be a benefit to delaying if expected investment returns exceed inflation, the potential for material cost escalation and supply chain uncertainty may outweigh that benefit. To summarize, the desire to lock in today's prices may outweigh the opportunity cost of tying up capital. So in this project, restoring the dining room furniture, here are the constants and variables to consider. The constants. After months of searching, we now have the right expert, Dan Stoss of Memory Lanes Antiques, who is willing and able to complete the project now. The amount of time it will take to complete the project is reasonable, 6 to 8 weeks. The estimate includes complete restoration and repairs as needed, and includes pickup and delivering of the furniture. The total cost of completing the project is reasonable at $28,710. We have the funds available in the Callahan House Fund, and using them still leaves a significant amount in the fund, approximately $60,000. This restoration will last for many years. Those are our constants. Here are our variables. We may receive funding from Questers, but it is not guaranteed we will receive the full amount. While we anticipate funding from the state Questers will come sometime this year, it is likely any funding from the national Questers will not come until next year. The cost of materials, leather for the chairs, may increase, thereby increasing the total cost of the project. Availability of the materials later is not guaranteed. The cost of labor may increase next year, and it may not be reasonable to expect the expert to honor his estimate a year later. And the availability of the expert later is not guaranteed. So given our constants and our variables, I really believe it is in the best interest of this house that we move forward with this project now, that we go ahead and use Callahan House funds from the Callahan House Fund intended for this purpose to go ahead and go forward with this project.
The reality is, I think we've missed the boat in terms of the schedule this year for having this not being available. The time period to do this is January through April.
I have a solution for that. While you're needing furniture for this room, it may not be the Callahan House furniture. We can seek out assistance from other antiques dealers who do have tables and chairs and buffets and servers who would likely donate that use for the time that we're without our own.
And the cost involved in getting those here.
I don't know that, but I certainly can find that out.
I guess it would depend on the materials. I'm hesitant to sell somebody a rental with them, intending on this furniture, and then their rental comes around and this isn't what's here. But if we have, plans ahead of time for early next year, then we know what's going to be here and we can let people know that before they were to already have a contract for the space.
How many contracts do we have in place right now?
I can sit through and count them all up, but basically,
Just give me
from
an
the
estimate.
I don't know, a lot. From the beginning of April through the end of the year that's our busy time, and that's when we've got private rentals throughout the rest of the year.
Is the specific furniture what is the degree of importance of this specific furniture?
I don't know, that depends on the person. Personally, if I was having a wedding here and I came in, there was different fixtures, I'd be pretty upset, to use a nice word.
Just gotta figure out what people expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, some of the smaller rentals and things like that might potentially be less problematic, but
So you think it may matter? That's what you're.
I think it may
alluding
matter
to.
depending on the client.
Okay.
So I hear what you're saying, Karen, in terms of the supply costs and things like that. Certainly the expectation is that those would increase. And then maybe that's something that we just plan for and the project could increase on its own anyway, just given what we have is an estimate. When they actually get down to doing the work, things can change, but
No, he confirmed he would not vary from his estimate despite, what repairs may be needed. He said, this is all I'm going to charge you. That's it for everything.
That was the conversation that you had then. But either way, yes, we can expect for supply costs to go up. That's a valid point. And we've got, money in the fund to cover that kind of thing if needed, or if Questers isn't able to raise all of the money for the project. But it's something to think about in terms of the schedule. I don't know where we're going to fit 6 to 8 weeks of not having this furniture available.
Okay,
Well-
is there something that we can schedule with Dean and see if we could do a
You mean
Okay.
Dan?
Dan?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to clarify who we're
Dan, I apologize,
Okay.
Dan. So you're saying the time to have this done would have been January?
Yeah, typically January through April are our slowest months, and if it's something that we have, we don't have any bookings for 2026 right now until, the spring open house would be the first thing. And in terms of private rentals, the first one is in June as of right now. So having it scheduled to where when people are coming to look at booking those dates, and we can let them know here's what's going to be available. And that could even be then that we don't necessarily need replacement furniture. We've got other tables and chairs on hand. Most of the time when this room's used, the chairs are moved out and it's tables that are necessary, which we have. But I would just want someone to know before they're renting the space what that's going to be like, and not after they've signed a contract.
Okay, so So
Are they aware? I'm just going to ask a
No,
quick
go
question
ahead.
because it's online. So clients have signed a contract. Are they aware of the condition of the chairs? Are they aware that the leather is splitting on the backs? That
People
they-
come in person and see the space.
Okay.
okay.
Would it be objectionable to them to have another set that doesn't have damage?
I don't know. This is what I'm saying. I can't speak for every client. I'm just saying
I mean, if we're
scheduling it so that we know what's here when people are booking the space rather than changing it after they have expectations of what the space is going to be.
Is it unreasonable to reach out to those that are booked for, say, the next 2 to 3 months? Because that would be the time within which this would be all done. Just to reach out to them and say, we have some damage to the antique furniture in the dining room. We're looking at having it restored. While your event would be going on, we would have other antique furniture in its place. So you would still have the
I think you need to
aesthetic.
find out the details of the potential of having other furniture in place before I would reach out to any clients.
Okay. Well, we could find. I
We
think
don't want a
that's
bunch of like, here's maybe what's going on. It would be, here's what's going on.
Is there a
Does this work
different
for you?
time to look at? Like, I would say in the next couple months, I was like really busy here with a lot going on. So,
And,
outside
yeah.
of January, is there a different time that could be comparable to you connecting with some
well,
folks?
and I question when I wrote the grant. We had talked about doing the table and the chairs. So, what were you planning on doing? That I put forth anyway. That we were going to then do we'd cover the cost for the leaves, and obviously the table wasn't going to be here.
Yeah, so that would be at a time period where we could let people know before they were booked if that was going to be the situation. We were talking about this at the end of last year, and it falling in that time period where we don't have tons of rentals. I mean, it could be right now is definitely the most difficult time because people are having indoor events. So come summer, it might actually be
A better time.
somewhat easier. The problem with that is this is like the backup space for, if the weather's not good. But again, it would depend on the client.
Okay. So
So I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying this is something to weigh, and the other side of that is weighing, supply costs
I
going
think
up.
it's one of those things that yes, we have to weigh. Yes, we have to look at all options and go forward. And that I don't think this is any different than when we did the windows and anything else. When we had events here, we were doing restoration projects.
And that was planned for far enough in advance to where we could book rentals around that rather than having a full schedule of rentals set up for the season and having to go back and let people know that it's changed at that time. Again, it's not impossible. What I would say is find out the information about getting something supplementary for the time being. We need to weigh that and see if that's realistic, and then it would be reaching out to clients individually to make sure that everybody's okay with that. So
So a table of
That's
10
the next
chairs, a server, and a buffet.
yeah, I'm wondering if we necessarily need that
buffet.
one, but
Okay. So without the buffet, just a server and the table.
sideboard.
I call it a
Sideboard.
server. Anyway, that.
and then being able to get those items in the house too, like if they
Mhm.
need to be, if they're antique pieces and they have to be disassembled and reassembled in the house, just figuring out the details of the possibilities there.
Right.
But I'm not going to reach out to clients until we have a potential plan in place because
Okay.
it would be worse to say, oh, maybe we're doing this, and a lot of back and forth. That
Okay.
would not instill a lot of confidence.
So just to clarify, it would be okay then for us to go ahead and finance the project and then accept funds later from the questers?
As long as the questers can do that, yeah. In
We
terms
can
of
do
the
that.
city,
What I'm wondering.
and
We
that's
can
the
do
other
that.
thing too, is it's going to be, I think it's 2 months for the city to appropriate funds from the house fund into a usable state. So those funds aren't going to be available for a couple of months anyway. So that's something to consider. And then keeping in mind that, and I don't think this is problematic, but it's not a one-to-one. We use money from the house fund, it goes into a usable expense source, and then the money comes back from questers at some point and goes back into the house fund. It's not going to from the city standpoint, it's not going to show that that money was paid for this project. It's just gonna
That's
be
exactly it,
donations
because,
out and which
and
is
that's,
fine.
that's kind of how it's set up anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you do, if we were coming in and we were giving you grant money, that's how it's set up anyway. So it goes back into the house fund. It's not stated that we specifically paid for this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, other than if we do it under a donation aspect, and it's written under the donation form, that Questers donated this money, or
Yeah,
was-
I mean, it will be a donation, so that will be.
so then I just don't see the point. If it's going to take us 2 months to get it moved over anyway, that puts us straight into the summer. And then you said most of the things are outside. If we could then replace a table, and I'm thinking as a bride aspect, they want the table to show the cake or have that kind of stuff. It's not about, and for the most part, the table's got a cloth on it. And it is covered. So I don't see what the big...
Not for those events, but it's the
I do
second
have
point.
the timeline for these. The
Oh,
next,
okay.
so the next appropriation is for July, and it's due Thursday, May 29th. The first reading is July 8th. The second reading is July 22nd to be awarded. Then the appropriation month in August. Deadlines for that would be due. Request would be Thursday, July 3rd. So, just as a timeline of where we're looking, July and August are the next ones. This is from Sarah.
That's the soonest we can have funds available would be July
Yeah,
or
this
August.
is where we're at, where the
Which
like it
is
starts at.
Can you repeat that as far
Yeah,
as?
go ahead.
Oh, okay.
If that makes sense, I'm happy to repeat
I
it.
mean,
if
in
the
my
chart
mind, if
doesn't-
we have to wait that long, it feels like we should do it in January so that any rentals booked at that point, here's already the plan. If it's the difference of a few months at that point.
If we're doing that, if we're putting it off that far, I think confirming with Dan at Memory Lanes Antiques is going to be really critical to tell him, all right, our timeline is not this year, but rather next.
He's already aware.
Do you
that
have
that's a
the materials
possibility,
in
and he said he
hand?
can do it when we need it done. But yes,
You
of
already
course we
talked
would.
to
What
Dan
I'm
about
trying
this?
to say is,
But of course, we'd confirm with him when we
given
have
the
timeline.
changes, you may want to ask him, do you have the materials in hand? Do you have the leather in hand? Does it need to be purchased now? Those are things that we should be asking him, he should be aware of and be thinking of and know in advance, so that
Yeah.
So
as,
if
as
he,
the expert, it would be on him to figure out the timeline of his supply chain.
so
right.
So,
What
so my big question is: if you have spoken with Dan, have you spoken with Dan directly and said
He's aware that the
wouldn't be
funding
done?
may push this project out even potentially into 2026. That was directly
Okay.
stated.
So
He said he's available when we're ready.
okay, so I think the big thing is then why don't we then schedule it, get the money ready to go, and put it ready to go for January? Then I don't see what the big. We just need to move forward on it.
Yeah, I'm not saying not move forward. I'm saying having it gone in the middle of
Summer
rental season for people that weren't expecting this
is not going to work.
not worth maybe the struggle of the extra couple of months for it to get done
Okay.
that much earlier. Like if we can't have the funds available till maybe the beginning of August, I personally don't see the point in pushing it to have it happen in those couple months as opposed to a couple months later in January when we can be better prepared and plan for it and clients can know that that's going to be the situation.
Okay.
I like that
speaking-
scenario.
I do too.
So speaking to the timing of the appropriation process, since the whole appropriation process is really kind of unclear, at least I'm.
Well, Kristen's got some information about that.
That'll be helpful to know. But if the next one isn't, until, July and then August, what does that mean for, is that the second to last one for the year? Is that the last one for this year?
I don't know. She's got the schedule. We can see when
and
she
so-
comes back.
Timing wise, when do we need to enter that process for appropriation process to be complete
Yep.
and money in hand January 1?
Yep.
That's up to us to plan that out.
Okay, but
That is our job to do
I-
that.
I
And there is
understand.
another one at the end of the year.
Okay.
okay, but
That's the
I
one
don't
that
think
saves
I don't
recreation.
think it's out of line to ask the question though.
Yeah, And my answer is that's our job to do that.
Okay.
That's my answer is this is something we do. We do appropriations every year. So
Okay.
And if we're planning, and I'm in agreement with you, Maureen. I think if we have to wait that long, I think that just let's plan this thing now so
Yeah.
we're really set. Like
I think
January 2 and we go boom. Like,
I think that's really kind of where we're at. I think personally, if we have to wait to January to move forward, that's fine. But I also don't think it's wrong for us to ask when do we. So if we're planning on going January 1st, this is popping in, and this is what we're doing. What do we apply in October? Is there an application in October to plan for that money?
We're wondering when the second appropriation is for the year to have that money available for the beginning of 2026.
And now we're going to also need to get even more specific regarding that appropriations process and that what needs to happen with our single vendor estimate. Do we have
We need
to have
another
more
quote.
than
We
one?
already know that we need another quote, for sure.
We need
so,
two.
So
Yeah, we have
For
to
the
have
city
at
project.
least two
so
quotes
for
to move
this
forward with the
project, well, for all projects, we have to have two quotes.
For all projects.
For all projects, we have to have at least two quotes, not three.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so we need either, if we cannot get another estimate.
That's
then,
the question.
Then what is the expectation?
I don't know. We need to get another estimate. Yeah.
Oh,
But we
because
asked this last month. If we cannot get another estimate, what's the expectation? What happens?
because
What's allowed?
Because what's already occurred is Karen went out and got 3 estimates. 2 didn't respond back, and we
Well,
only got the one.
Did
Correct?
not get estimates. Inquired with 4 different antique restoration.
And they declined to
professionals.
quote, or they just didn't get back, or what?
One declined to quote. He's not doing it anymore. The other declined to quote because he is finishing up the projects he's doing. He's retiring. The other one is completely out of business, no longer
Taken in.
existing.
Did
And
they
the
maybe
final
have
one,
suggestions for anybody else that you could get a quote
I
from?
got the final one from the one who is retiring.
But you did get a quote?
Good.
The one that I got a quote from was Dan Stoss with Memory Lanes Antiques.
Right.
That's the one that I was referred to me, said, hey, I'm retiring.
And then go to
But-
memory lane.
This guy's really
Okay.
good. See
Okay.
what you think about him. So that's
Let's-
that process.
well,
and
yeah,
I'll remind you,
connect
this happened
with,
over months. And so if you would like to seek out, if the city would like to seek out other estimates, great.
The city has to seek out other estimates. So
Then-
I'll talk to purchasing and see if they can help us find somebody that can at least
Give us a quote.
submit another quote. Yeah, we have to have another quote to move forward with the project. So I'll talk to purchasing about that, and then we'll figure out what we need to do for
We'll
the
talk
appropriation.
with Sandra about, or Sarah about the appropriation timing, what they want to see. So,
Yeah.
'cause
And it would just
they may want to see it at the end of the year because of their own financial reasons. They may want to say, go ahead and do it now. I don't know. So we just
okay.
have to ask.
I'm just confused because we were told 2 months that it takes 2 months to receive
That was
those
an
funds.
estimate.
Oh, which is fine. I completely understand that it's a guesstimate. I got that we've got 2 months out to but if I'm just having a better understanding of what we need to do to make sure that we can move forward on this project in a timely manner that works for everybody. I'm not trying to stir my stomach or be rude or anything. It's just I'm just asking questions, and I don't think asking the questions are wrong.
Nobody's saying that that's a problem.
What question have you? I'd like to. What question do you have?
My question is trying to figure out the process of this, and it just seems like when I do, I get, well, that's her job. Well,
I said that at that point, and I obviously don't want to antagonize you or argue with you.
I'm
But
not
at
trying
the
to
same
argue
time,
with you, but I'm just trying to ask a question. Okay, I understand it's your job, but I still don't think it's wrong to ask when those times are. She just told us that there's time for July and August. Is there another time later on that it takes 2 months out? So 2 months out, November, October when is that time?
And that's
and
yes,
that's
I said
kind
that.
of okay.
So that's what
I
we'll
said November.
figure out.
There's like you said. There's an October. At mid-October, I don't have an exact date. Maybe
Okay.
you do yours,
Are you
but
talking
there's
about-
one
okay.
with the winter one. And I think our question to them, which we don't know, is when do they want us
Sure.
to put this in considering it's for next year. We want to make sure that,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I don't understand if we do it for next year, like we have other accounts that roll easily. So I don't, and I imagine this one rolls easily since it carries over. So I don't think there's any problem with maybe doing it as quickly as possible. And if that's the case, let's get it done. But I
Okay.
don't know. That's a question for them.
Okay, and that answered everything that I really I wanted to know is, okay, if we can just get it all lined up and ready to rock and roll, that's the big information process here. And then if we need to get that second quote, okay, is that something that we need to work on as a board to get another quote? I'm just trying to figure out
I mean,
the
if you
process
have
here.
places
I think
that you know
I
of that
think
you
at
want to
this
reach
point-
out to, definitely don't let that stop you. But I'll talk to purchasing and see if we can get one as well, and then we'll figure out what the timeline is and the process for the appropriations and get the ball moving on that, so we have these funds ready for early next year.
And I think the big thing is, that's great, let's ask purchasing, but we do need to make sure that it's somebody that knows how to deal with antiques and that it's restoration.
Sure, and we
preservation.
still have the option to choose a quote. So,
Okay, that's the only big thing.
Yeah.
I think we're pretty much just coming to agreement on when to do it, and I think we move forward, and I'm very excited to accept the check on the 17th and to bring that back and to see, hopefully we can raise quite a bit to put towards it as well, and we'll just go from there. But again, there was no guarantee that we'd cover all the funds, because I'm applying for a grant that isn't even issued completely until May of 2026. They don't even start the grant process because they do it on even years. That's just
So could,
Okay.
Maureen, could you send us the information on the garage sale so that we could disseminate that information to our friends and stuff?
absolutely.
Yes.
I figure I will get a little thing, and maybe we could even put it out there in
The
a
open
in this what is it, a city something or other.
Constant contact?
I don't know. Can we do
Would
that?
Recreation put that out?
Yeah.
Specifically to ask for donations towards this?
No,
I'm
or
sorry.
to ask to just say that we're just
Questions
gonna.
garage sale.
We're having garage sale to raise funding for the Callahan house.
Probably
Is that
not
something
that.
that would be a no?
We could do
Well,
our
I don't wanna
emails,
say
can't we?
no, but
Is
I
it-
can certainly ask.
Well,
let's
Like
see.
the Callahan
Let's
house
see.
email.
Could we at least post it? We always post it in the library and at the memorial building on the bulletin
Yeah,
boards and
we have
stuff like that.
public spots, but
Not
absolutely,
We
everybody.
want to
I'd love
ask
to
if
see
we
that.
can use the Callahan email blast to promote the garage sale.
That's what I'm asking, please.
Kristen, do you know when the funds are released at this time schedule, looking at the July, the second reading is July 22nd? Do you have any idea when the funds would be released on this specific month?
I'd have to ask, given that the
It
second
varies.
reading isn't until July 22nd, it wouldn't be until after that because it has to go to council 2 times.
And then it just depends when they get to it. It's generally within the next couple of weeks,
So
but it
within a
could be,
couple of weeks.
yeah, and then it depends on, is there time pressure for a particular thing?
Right.
You know, like last year, we needed to have that money into recreation to make sure we covered for the end of the year, right at that early December, so they were trying to go really quickly. And other times, if they know it's later, then it may take them an extra week or so. In my experience, I don't want to speak for them.
And is there any requirement to actually spend that money? I mean, once it's approved, do we have a time frame we need to spend it within?
Great
As long as
question.
we have our plan in place, and if not, the finance is always very flexible with such things.
So if we had
Especially money that is already intended to roll over, like our fund. I don't see any issue.
So it's possible to get approved a couple months before we actually would.
I think so.
I'll ask Sarah.
So,
Yeah.
She's the
That's exactly what I was asking.
so
yeah.
it kind of ties nicely in with what, thinking forward, knowing that this is not the only restoration preservation project that we will be addressing and looking at, and probably into next year. It would really be helpful to have more clarification about the appropriation process. If we can include that as a topic for our agenda next meeting, so that we understand future restoration preservation projects and how we may have to plan in accordance with whatever calendar
What questions
that-
exactly do you want to have about the appropriations process? And we can
What is
put
the
that into
calendar of the
packet.
appropriations process?
Just the calendar? That's all you
That's the
want?
first question. I'll invite anyone who has another question about the appropriations process to raise their question now, since that's what you're asking for. So,
So a general summary of the process and then the calendar?
right.
Yeah.
We need to know when the appropriations process happens, how frequently through the year, what months of the year that is,
And what it is.
and what it is.
Just what is the process that we as board need to go through?
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
summary of the process and a calendar.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be great.
So we can include that under items from the board or items from staff in the next
Yeah.
meeting.
Okay. Are we required to take a low bid if we have multiple bids?
No.
Okay.
See, that's one of the questions. Is we hate to ask you all the time, but if that's in information, then cool. We got the information. We can just read it. We are not required to do that. Okay.
Okay.
Good to know.
Just a reference paper.
Yeah.
Right. And just another general question, what happens if we have a quote, we request an amount, and their cost overruns? How do we handle additional costs?
Change orders.
And does that go through appropriation also, or
No.
not?
No.
Okay, so
It won't.
that's easily
I guess
handled.
unless you-
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, unless it's something where the cost is gonna double, and then we may need
okay,
to
so that's not an
do
issue.
something different, but, you know, I mean, if it goes up, honestly, I will ask them, if this is the number, and we'll talk with the guy, we wanna make sure, so what's our number for January 2nd? We'll get that number, then we'll talk with Sarah, what would be a reasonable amount for us to pull over, assuming the 10% contingency. That's how I would think we would do it, but until we do it, I'm not sure. So, but yeah, that we would have that, and then we have, if it's $1,000 and we're short, we have PDF 145, which Callahan also has money in that we could use to cover something like that. So that's a
Right.
easy one, but that's a good question because the contingency part, it's a question for finance how we want to do that.
And one of the concern is that you've seen Sullivan the stand gentleman as far as his ability to do quality work at a reasonable price. I guess a question which, well, it's not a question, but are we comfortable that he'd be available in the first of the year to do this work?
I don't know.
That's what we don't know.
And that is an uncomfortable
I talked to him
question.
specifically about the project might happen in 2026. He's not retiring, he's not moving, he said he's available when we're available.
So you're comfortable with that?
Let's
Yeah,
get him
I mean,
booked.
you know.
So we should
Get it on his
then
book.
get on his
So how
schedule.
do we book that and
Call
I'll
sure
just
it
follow
up
up with
so
him and
that
let
it's
him know where we're at
confirmed,
with
Right.
this
including
conversation.
pricing and
I
timeline?
It'll
think
depend
that's
on what
really
he
up to-
needs to confirm a booking. So
Right.
until we have, if he needs a deposit, until we have the funds. But I will follow up with him
Okay.
and let him know where we're at and the intention and just
Well, if that's the
Yeah,
case,
give him a check.
again, we will receive the $3,000 from the Questers
yeah.
on the April 13th. If we could put that down as a deposit,
Oh, yeah.
Well,
then
it still
fine.
needs to go into our
To our-
donation fund. and be
I understand.
appropriated.
It's got to all go
But
through
we
the
have
rules.
money,
But
So-
we need to make a deposit.
Oh, that's good. Because he may
So,
need to buy
right,
the
'cause-
leather.
He
Yeah.
could easily months out, booking wise, or years, who
Yeah.
knows? So, but that's something,
That didn't seem to be the case.
right, but it's easily determined.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with this? Because you're the one that's most involved
I think
in
this
this
is how the
process.
city
I
is
think everybody is
operating,
invested in
and,
this
Yeah.
process.
and I think that's all we can ask.
Okay.
And while we would be passionate about a certain project or urge something to occur more quickly, just to confirm that it's going to get done right, and for the price that we're all saying, yes, that's highly reasonable. It's I guess what the city's process is, and if that's all that can be done, then
Yeah, and that timeline gives us more breathing room to make sure that it gets, not only that he has time to get the project done correctly, but that we have time for our processes to be appropriate without the use of this space for our clients.
Okay, and but we still then need to get a second quote. But the issue that I'm having is because I've got to do the follow-up reporting with Questers is we wrote this grant based off of this estimate.
Yeah.
And that I want to then be able to report back that it was done correctly and that we didn't just change it up, because then it looks like I just want to make sure that all my T's are crossed and I's dotted on my end too. That when I applied for this grant, it was based off of that estimate, and that I want to make sure that we're following through. That's
Yeah, we're not
the
planning
way.
to change
Okay, but
the process. I guess I don't understand your concern.
I'm concerned if we get another estimate and then we decide to go with that estimate, if that's going to.
We'll go with the most appropriate estimate based on,
Okay.
you know,
Expertise.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I don't know, Maureen, I mean, if we end up, I can also ask Dan for an updated estimate with supply cost estimates for 2026, if that isn't too late in your process to have a different estimate.
No, I would just have to. I don't want to complicate the reporting
Sure.
process.
So
Is
you
what
would-
my big thing. I would like to keep it as clean as I can.
So would you like to keep with the original estimate?
I would prefer
Okay.
to, but if we have to change it, we have to change it. I'll do what I need to do. But it would be preferable to just report and say this is how it went, and the project started here, and this is when it.
And then we make up the
Yeah,
difference.
the
if
county
Yes.
has to
Yeah.
make up the
Right.
difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's it. So when are we ready to set dates?
I think the next step is for Brittany to reach out to
The guy.
Dan.
Dan
Dan
and
and-
purchasing for another
And
quote.
see what we need to like sort of get him booked for the beginning of January.
Okay.
And let him know where we're at with the process.
Are you comfortable with doing it in January then? Is that the
January would
most
be
comfortable
great.
date?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to talk to Dan, kind of get an idea of his schedule, and then next month will we set up our target dates?
Well, we still have to get a second quote, so that also still has to happen.
And that's
Okay.
a time.
Well, that also would be in our.
So we
target
can't
dates.
like pay him a deposit until we have a second quote and can officially
Mhm.
accept his.
So between now
As
and
well.
next meeting, the city will get a second quote.
And we
Work on it.
look for others.
Yeah.
If we know
Yeah.
of people.
Work on it.
Yeah, if you
Definitely.
know
I
anybody,
mean,
don't hesitate.
It was out
but-
to everybody months ago, last year when we began to talk about it for
And our
everybody to
understanding
look
at that
for
point
somebody.
is that if we
So,
made
yes.
the effort to get quotes, that was good enough, but have since discovered that that's not the case, so.
Strawberry Festival is coming up, and hopefully I might be able to find some more people that might have booths and stuff there. There's no guarantee, but
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
All right, well, I think
so-
we have a plan in place, so we should probably keep moving forward on these.
Okay.
So, so
Well,
next month, we hope to have another estimate,
We
talk
would
to
hope.
Dan, another quote.
These are the to-dos in the meantime, yeah.
Right, and then hopefully next month, we can set up specific target dates for when we are going to
If not before then.
establish, we're going to apply for the allocation and
The appropriation process.
appropriations
again.
and, okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the
Thank you for your
2024
input.
annual report. Apparently that has been submitted to City
Yeah,
Council.
it's submitted for the April 22nd meeting, but I don't have confirmation that it's for sure included in that meeting yet. But as soon as we know exactly when it's gonna be, I will
Thanks for your
email
explanation.
you or
Okay.
let you know
Okay.
if it's not till like the next board meeting.
Great.
But it's been submitted.
Thank you. All right, then on to restricted areas encampment mitigation.
So I've got a sample of the fencing. Basically, the long and short of it, in terms of the questions that were asked about the steel versus the aluminum, list here is that the steel would be recommended for Colorado, just based on the climate and the life and maintenance. So the steel basically has no maintenance other than if it needs a paint touch up because something happened with it. Otherwise, it comes with a lifetime warranty. The aluminum is a little more prone to dents and things like that. The reason that people use aluminum is because in wetter climates it's a better option, but because Colorado's so dry, steel would be the recommendation here. So, and it comes coated. It doesn't need to be painted, like I said, unless there were like a touch-up need, but they can provide us with touch-up paint. So the height is 6 foot. You asked for samples, which I've got here. So basically, and I've got a flyer here too. I'll bring up the computer, but these were the two options that we were looking at. So this was the Genesis, and it's got, I'll show you, there's plugs that you can put in the top to get the like flourish design if we're interested in that. And then, think about the name of what this one was, but let me pull up the flyer here so you can see those options. So, yeah, this was the Genesis, and then it's got
Oh, nice.
these different kind of options for the top that are just little plugs that go in right here.
Yeah. And can we try to match kind of what we already have out?
Yeah, these are the three options, but yeah, we would of course match, as close as possible.
What do you think is the best one, Brittany?
Probably one of these two, I think, based on what's out there, but I'd need to take a closer look. And then the other, I'm doing this upside down here, but the other one we were looking, whatever it's called, is this one, which is like the pinch top, but I think aesthetically this one with the plugs would match closer to what we've got.
In my mind, that's what I was thinking is what we would match as closely as we could without, it's obvious it's a newer material looking at it.
Yeah.
But I think that's just a much better choice. I know it's more expensive, but long-term maintenance-wise and everything, I think that's going to be the best option.
Yeah.
So that just made out of what material?
Steel?
The
That's
steel.
the steel?
Yeah. So that was the recommendation, and I think we're pretty much ready to move forward with that. So still be the gate in between, and then it's a 6 foot. I did speak with the gardening crew about making sure to maintain behind that space. Sounds like there's not really any issues there. And then we've got the gate for behind the events shed. The one question we had still for the auto house, Jeff and I were actually able to take a look at that last time you all were here for committee meetings. And in terms of the height of that, so they're not affixing anything to the auto house, but because they will have to put a post in there, from the cement for the gate to latch to, and the post actually being in front of. Our original concern was that the gate couldn't be a certain height because of the windowsill. But if the post has to be there anyway, we can actually match the height on that side to the height that they wanted to do on the south side here. And so that can be even all the way around, but still be high enough to deter people from being able to climb down there.
I think that's a great
So
idea.
that would be the recommendation. So it looks uniform, but still has the height to serve its purpose.
Okay.
Nice.
So the height of the gate and the height of the fence above the side rail will be high enough to, assuming, prevent people from climbing over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would be that higher height that we originally were looking at, but it would be uniform all the way around.
I like that idea better. Personally, I was concerned that somebody might try to climb it anyway and then fall and then blame the city. I like the idea of it being one. They might do it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm not going to say that they won't.
Yeah.
But it makes more of a deterrent if
That's
it's higher, if the gate is higher.
And that's what was scaring me is like it's if you can step over it, that's kind of inviting.
Yeah.
And then they fall, and then it's just a
Yeah.
mess. And
Yeah, so if-
God forbid somebody gets badly hurt.
But we wouldn't
but
want
if you do
that.
that, then
It's more
you're
of a
becoming
deterrent.
very intentional.
Yes.
At that point.
Yeah.
And it is posted as a restricted area, so I don't know that if somebody was
What
trying to
was
climb
the
in there,
cost
that they
difference for
would.
the steel?
I have it in
Have we
glass.
talked
Yeah,
to
I
her
can
or
pull it
something
up.
about that?
And so that doesn't
Have talked to who?
impede the window,
About the
right?
difference between-
No, that'd be between
No,
the,
I
between
was
the
still
windows.
only got still have 2 quotes.
Like, we haven't picked anything
Okay.
to move
Yeah,
forward.
so yeah, it's
Jeff
yeah.
looked at that,
No.
and I
Good, good.
accept his opinion
Back on
on
the
this.
Yeah.
steel fence, or do you have a picture of it as far as the style here?
Yeah,
Something like that.
like this.
So that has the 2 bars up top, towards the top, and one
Yeah.
at the bottom. So our only decision at this point would be
Finial.
the finials. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Is everybody comfortable with this?
Absolutely. I think it looks
Because we
great.
looked at a couple different designs last time.
I think this is what we kind of came to the agreement, and I like the idea that you can see through it and see if there is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
That's,
does anyone have preference on the finials?
I think the biggest one is the one that is most
These are now
similar.
Right, similar to whatever's out here, trying something that's the
Yeah,
closest.
I think
in design.
I mean, I'll go take a look, but I think it's probably one of these two with sort of the fleur-de-lis looking.
Yeah, I'd go with maybe center one.
Yeah, that was my initial thought,
Yeah,
but
it
I'd like
looks-
to, I'd compare it.
From I
It's
can't
out
see
there.
it close, like
Yeah.
holding it up.
Yeah.
You want it similar but not identical, so everybody knows historically this has not been here before, but it's similar.
Does it have a title? The middle one?
Triad, Royal, and Quad Flare. Those are the royalty.
And honestly, I'd leave it up to you, Brittany, because you're going to be the one that's looking at it to make that decision in the sense of which one looks best.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only other thing regarding that is, so we're holding off on the major lighting project right now, but the two security lights that are on the auto house right now that are already existing fixtures are not working anymore and they need replaced. So the recommendation from facilities and from the electric and lighting company would be to put LED fixtures there. So we were looking at something that looks, more in keeping with the time period of the house. I'll just pass this around real quick, but I guess the question is, if we want something there that's on from dusk to dawn, or something that's motion sensor, and if the purpose is encampment mitigation, the guidance from the lighting company was something that's on from
Dusk to dawn.
because if it's motion sensor, somebody crawls in and goes to sleep, and eventually the light goes off,
That
and
looks nice.
Right.
Yeah.
it's
I
not
don't know
really
if it is with
helpful.
the house, but it
So
looks- or we do that.
the reason that the modern one is on there was just to
No.
show
I've done
like
that one. Yeah.
there's going to be less options aesthetically that can,
It's
do the
gonna have
functionality
bugs
that
and
we
you
want,
have
but
to
that one
clean
on
it
the
more,
top
but
right is one that they found.
Function wise, you can change the light out easier.
So I was wondering if that sort of on the
Again.
top right photo that's kind of what's available to be somewhat aesthetically appropriate, but still have the functionality that we want, and if
Okay.
that looks okay.
Okay, question. Because it's easier to change the light bulb, is it also easier to unscrew? How high is it going to be?
Well,
So
those are
somebody can-
enclosed, like these ones right now are enclosed, so you'd have to like have a screwdriver and take off the stove.
Okay, just wanted
Yeah,
to
it's a
make
good
sure
question.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do
Okay.
you know if they're available in different wattages so we can get the correct
I assume
brightness?
so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think 24-hour or dusk and dawn makes a lot of sense,
Mm-hmm.
especially with LEDs. They burns a little electricity.
Yeah.
I think the
Yeah. So yeah, it would just be,
Online.
so there's one above the front door and then one above the staircase that we've been talking about. So those would be the only lighting fixtures that we would do anything with.
Okay.
at
I
this
did
point.
have a question. So you had a major light project going for. Why has that been delayed? And is it a cost expense?
Well, we
What-
just
what's
want to
going on?
see how the fencing works to help with the encampment
First?
mitigation issue and then go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Because that might solve
It might
the
just
issue and
deter it, and then we'll be done.
need to put in the extra lighting
Additional
stuff, which
lights.
was
Okay.
a little, it was a big project, so, and potentially having extra wiring and stuff that we may not have to deal with.
Okay.
So, just
That
kind
makes
of holding
sense.
off on that for now and reevaluating after the fencing is in and see how that helps the situation.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, yeah, so everybody's okay with this sort of somewhat of a style of a fixture. And what's there right now is ultra modern, so this is going to be an improvement on that.
so these fixtures often aren't closed on the bottom.
Yeah,
Do you
those
know-
type aren't often closed on the bottom.
Well, yeah, it is a good point. We'll try to make sure and get
My
something
big
that
thing is that it's high enough that somebody can't reach up and just unscrew the bulb.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly the one on this side is. This one you'd have to step on something. But yeah, it's a good point. And then are we good to move forward with the fencing project as discussed then?
I think it's, yeah.
And the funds for that are being drawn from,
Is that PBF?
PBF 145.
okay.
So I move that I'm going to put forth a motion that we go ahead and approve the fencing project as submitted and go from there.
Maureen's moved, we go forward with the fencing project as submitted. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Jeff seconds that, and is there, I don't imagine we have any more discussion. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that passes by majority. Karen's not here.
What?
I mean,
Oh.
Diana's not here, so it's not unanimous, but it passes by
Okay.
majority. I would imagine she's on board with it too, but I can't speak for her. Oh,
Diane.
Diane. We'd like you to be included in this. So Diane, Maureen made a motion to move forward with this fencing project as presented, and Jeff's seconded it. And there's no more discussion. Are you also in favor?
Yes, I am.
Okay, then it is unanimous. Thank you. All right, we will move on to the calendar of events. I want to bring everyone's attention quickly to the time. It is about 10 after 11. We have quite a bit more to discuss on the agenda. How are we with time? Is it acceptable if we're going over on
Yes.
the time today?
It's going to be a crowded meeting, but let's
Okay.
just get it done.
I just wanted to respect everyone's time, check in. All right, we're good. So, calendar of events. We're going to talk first about the club affair and Unity.
Unfortunately, I followed up with them a couple of times, and we still don't have any information back about the cost or what that will look like. So, that said, I don't know if we want to give it another month, and I can just follow up and say, hey, we kind of need to hear back by our next meeting. Otherwise, we need to move forward on our own or something like that.
Sounds great.
I think
That's perfect.
Yeah,
I
that's
think-
perfect.
Yeah, let's do that.
It's interesting because it was very receptive at first, and they were really excited. And now I've been followed up a
It's
couple
kinda
times
like-
and haven't heard anything. But so I'll just follow up and say we kind of need to at least have some information by our next meeting, or we need to.
It could be just the time of year. It's just
Sure.
the time of year,
Yeah.
and it got
Good plan.
cited.
Yeah.
Remind me of the date.
I believe it was August 22nd. Sounds right. Was Unity.
Okay. Well, I don't think that
And if that's the case, I do think that we
Yeah,
plan with
this
Unity
Friday.
and try to have a booth.
Yes.
And the big thing is the cost of the booth and how much it's going to cost
Yeah,
us.
and what they were looking at was giving us like a section. I think it was the library courtyard.
Oh,
And
that would be
giving us-
great.
Yeah, this was their, when I said we were interested, this was their initial idea, was to give us like a section that would be Callahan House and our club's section. And so we would kind of do it like we did here, where we get people to fill that space and be like with us, but be part of a larger event that sees, significantly more people come through than what we're necessarily able to get here.
Okay.
Oh, I guess you weren't at the
So-
last
yeah,
meeting.
I was going to say.
I didn't hear this. Okay.
Yeah, so
but
that's
can we
the
talk more
idea.
about that in detail at the next meeting, since we're planning to
Yeah.
anyway? And,
Yeah.
and we'll all get the newest, the
Okay.
latest scoop of everything
yeah.
at that point. Hopefully.
Yeah, but that was the idea, is that
Okay.
we would have like a section of their event, and we would get the clubs to fill
That's
that
great.
space.
It's a great spot.
And
Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
and they get, I can't remember the numbers, but several hundred or close to 1,000 people come through.
A lot of people go.
Yeah, last year
Well,
we
in
had a
fact,
couple hundred.
Well,
so.
I saw you there.
Right.
What's
So,
the,
yeah.
I'm sorry, what's the time frame? If it's a Friday?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's an evening.
It's an
usually.
evening thing.
Yeah.
So it's like 4 to 8 or
Something like that,
4 to
yeah.
9. Yeah. I'm not sure how late the band goes. So
Yeah.
Okay. So, should we consider Santa visit as our next thing to talk about, or do we want to hinge that around after we've talked about the holiday open house?
Yeah, I
And
think
Habitat for
Habitat
Humanity gift
will
of
determine
home tour, determine the
Santa.
other. Okay, so let's talk about holiday open house versus Habitat for Humanity gift of home tour. What do we know?
Yeah, I did follow up with Chris, and they still don't know if it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or if it's Friday, Saturday. But he did say that in general, they are willing to work with our needs in terms of, questions about the schedule of decorating and taking down and things like that. He also said that he kind of made a executive decision that it would be okay for us to sell the Callahan House artwork. But we still need more information about, which vendors are available that we could choose from, and if they can be in a certain room, and like all that stuff. They just don't know yet.
okay.
But I don't think that any of that is necessarily like make or break information.
No.
It sounds like we're interested in moving forward, and then based on that, I have some information about when Santa's available and things there. So I think
So
The decision is whether or not we want to move forward.
All I'm going
do
to say
it.
is I missed one meeting and boy.
So, do we have a motion to move forward with doing Habitat for Humanity Gift of Home Tour this year in lieu of the holiday open house?
I'm going to move that's a great idea. I personally think that's a fabulous idea.
Cindy seconds. No further discussion.
So we're comfortable not having the traditional
Open
open
house.
house.
Yeah.
so.
Right.
And the reason being for that was that we didn't want to, offering a free event might take away from what Habitat is trying to do to raise funds. And so
Yes.
But this is a one and done thing that only
Yes.
this year
Right.
that would
Mhm.
happen.
Yeah.
We'll do the holiday open house as usual next year.
So this is not something that we would be doing on
Not
a yearly
changing
basis.
it.
No, they
Going forward.
use different locations every year, and so yeah,
Perfect.
maybe
Okay.
several years down the road again. But
So given we have the motion and the second, and we've had discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
It is unanimous.
Very exciting.
So that leads us now to
The
Santa
Santa.
visit. How does it work now? Now that we know we're kind of doing the gift of home tour, whether that be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or just Friday, Saturday. What do we do about Santa?
What are the dates? Because I don't have the dates.
yes,
Yes.
the Gift of Home tour is the first weekend in December, so it would be either 4, 5, and 6, or just 5 and 6. Habitat is not sure yet. Seeming like they were leaning more towards just the Friday, Saturday, but
Okay.
so that said, I offered to Santa, and of course it depends on what they decide, and we also did confirm with the city that there's no conflict of interest or issue with having our Santa event potentially the night before the lights event. Typically it's the week before, but that was not a problem with the city. So that said, Santa's availability is more for the Thursday time frame. He is available on the 4th if that ends up being a possibility depending on when the Gift of Home tour takes place, and that was actually his preference. That also is in keeping with our usual time frame from year to year, being that first weekend. However, if the home tour is taking place that day, obviously that doesn't work. But they did say that the decorating happens 2 to 3 days before the event, so it could be that if it's only Friday, Saturday, that Santa could be on the Thursday, and we would already be decorated for Santa, which could be nice. Which, I mean, I guess we would be. Well,
But we would be
the thing
close.
is that.
But
and
is
then
that
they
not a
take
conflict of
down-
interest? Is that not a conflict of interest? Because the people that are coming in, then it's already decorated for the home tour, and they're not going to then come back and do the home tour because they're not going to pay for it. And if they're already coming in for the Santa, is that not?
I don't know if
people
the
are-
Santa is the same people. Like
Yeah.
Santa's families, right? I don't think
Tends
the
to
home-
be more families, yeah.
And people have to go through, like, they can't just show up for Santa. I think we're going to do a different process this year, so they're going to have to go through, like, the lottery and stuff to
To
be
go in.
granted those.
Okay,
passes.
the next question with it being on a Thursday, is that not going to be more prohibited for a family? I know personally as a mom that if I had to then figure out how
It's
to,
been on a Friday historically.
yeah,
so,
historically on a Friday, it's the last, kids are out of school at least, and you're not trying to figure out how I'm going to get up the next morning to do all this other stuff.
Well, the
time frame is
Santa
early
is
enough.
available on the Thursdays and may or may not be available on the Sundays. Is the long and short of it.
Okay.
So
I don't
The time-
see it as a
the time
family
frame is
with 2
early
kids,
enough.
like,
You don't see it as an
if
issue?
we want to see Santa, well, I'll see him at midnight if
Yeah.
that's, that's what it's going to be. Yeah, I'll figure out the next morning.
I personally am
Yeah.
one of those that I'm just like, yeah, I probably wouldn't do it because, yeah.
So
We also-
are you saying he's available on the 11th?
the 11th was his second available date. The 4th
Okay.
was his preference. The 11th he's also available.
Okay.
Which could be good. I mean, that's right. And then we don't have the house wouldn't be decorated anymore for the Gift of Home tour if that does feel like a conflict. And then that weekend is the city's lights parade. And
But it's also
festival.
more work for us, so it's just like catch-22. I don't know.
Did you check on the 14th?
Yes. So then the 7th and the 14th were also the other possibilities, and he is unsure at this point. The Sundays are maybes for Santa.
Maybe.
Okay.
But Chris from Habitat did say that typically they do the takedown the Saturday after the home tour, so I don't think we're in conflict of.
But then we have to have other decorations ready to go.
Well, I think we still talked about doing our own, like,
yeah.
our own
And
stuff
they
that we
add-
normally
I
put up,
think-
and then they would just kind of add to
To
that,
it?
so that
Right.
way when they take down, we're
Right.
still left with what we would normally have.
Right.
Okay,
so we're
I'm
not-
sorry, I'm convoluting things
Yes.
because I
Okay.
wasn't at the last
Okay.
meeting,
Yeah.
We're
so.
assuming things.
My suggestion would be, we're going to have to nail Santa Claus down.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and Habitat may not make that decision for a while.
Okay. maybe
So
the
based on
11th.
that, I think we stay away from that 4th.
Sure.
Go with
that
the
makes
11th?
sense.
Does the 11th.
And go for the 11th. That
Okay.
makes sense.
I think
And
that's good.
then it's in conjunction with like the city's other holiday
Events.
offerings. I don't think that's necessarily a bad
I think
thing.
that sounds very
Okay,
good.
so it's like a plan.
So,
The
is
11th?
there a motion that Santa visit is scheduled for December 11th?
I so move.
Candy moves.
Yeah,
I'll
and-
second.
Candy moves and Diana seconds.
It
and
sounded
there's no
very
further
much like a motion.
discussion. We'll let you arm wrestle if you want. Let all in favor.
Aye.
Yeah. Okay.
So the 11th is the open house, is Santa
Yes.
visit.
Yes. Unanimously approved.
And you'll send that out on the calendar for
Mhm.
all of us. Thank you. Because
Okay.
otherwise.
I'll confirm with Santa just to.
Okay.
He did say, but just in case something changed.
All right.
I trust you'll do everything efficiently like normal, Brittany, but.
All right. So
Santa
we'll-
also works at CU basketball games.
So we'll move on to the
I had no
2025
idea.
committee
So
formation.
every time I walk in, Santa.
Setting meeting dates. So regarding club affair, do you want to wait until next month to set a committee meeting date?
Till we have more info.
Okay. All right. And then regarding fall tea, I might suggest that we go ahead and schedule a meeting. But I kind of want to piggyback it around any other committee meetings that may come up in committee updates. So, just looking at the schedule and seeing what may be coming up. How is everyone doing for either the rest of this week or next week? I know that we may have a little bit of assembly going on for patrons, but that shouldn't take the whole committee meeting.
Do we want to piggyback?
How's everyone's schedule looking for, say, either tomorrow or Friday of this week, or looking at Monday the 13th, Tuesday the 14th, tax day the 15th, and or Thursday
Monday's
the-
actually the 14th, isn't it?
Yeah.
What would
Monday's
be the
14th.
timing?
I'm on,
day.
sorry, I'm on the wrong year. You're right.
So that involves Karen, Maureen, and Cindy.
And anyone else who
This
wants
is
to
for
be
fall
involved.
tea. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
The,
Well, tomorrow's open at the house. Oh, actually, no. I'm sorry. I am at a conference the next 2 days, so we'd have to look at next week.
Okay, so Monday the 14th, Tuesday the 15th, Wednesday the 16th, or
I can do Tuesday better
Tuesday.
than I can do Mondays.
What time are you thinking?
Whatever time works
Tuesday,
best for-
that we have got clubs that Tuesday, so it'd have to be after like 1:30.
Okay. Can one after 1:30 work?
Works for me.
I'll make it work.
Okay. All right.
What day is that?
It is Tuesday, April 15th
1:30
at 1:30.
or 1 or 2.
And,
What would be better?
Yeah, no, 1:30 is fine.
Yeah. Tuesday, April 15th, 1:30.
Yeah,
Well,
I
it's
imagine
house
this would
schedule,
only
too.
be a 1-hour meeting at most, because I think we have some details to talk about, but then we'll have some planning to do, which we can do in the future. So it's just kind of an initial get going with it. Set dates. So okay.
Is that just fall tea, or are we
That's just
piggybacking
fall-
something
We're
else?
piggybacking.
Just fall tea right now. And now as we're moving on to committee updates, we're going to be talking about art walk and then the room by room docents tour. So we could potentially, if another committee meeting needs to be happening, we could potentially pack.
Could we piggyback Art Walk? Is that something that could work?
Absolutely. Is that acceptable?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Did anybody else have trouble accessing the
I did.
sheet?
I
Yeah.
couldn't.
I can.
I couldn't
You couldn't
access
get
it.
it?
It kept. It wants me
It's
to have a
weird, but-
password, and it
Huh.
would not. let
Maybe because
me-
I shared it with the chat group instead of to your individual emails, so I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment that love it, Brittany, but I can't
Well,
access
yours
it.
is shared individually, so that's weird. But
No, it wouldn't let me access it. It said I need a password. I'm like,
okay. Okay.
So
that will be, so Art Walk, the next Art Walk committee meeting will be Tuesday at 2:30.
3T.
And as far as updates regarding Brittany and Maureen, have you received? Because what we had asked everyone to do last month was to provide
Yes, I have.
any
I've
new
received some
to
artists.
you, and this was our deadline to have that into you. Do we have new artists to consider
We do.
at that, at that
I
committee
have.
meeting?
I have 3 that have been submitted to me.
Okay, great. So we'll be able to talk about that then.
Okay.
Okay.
I need a reminder what the plan was in between now. I think were we going to go ahead and are we not reaching out yet?
We weren't going to reach out quite yet, but I just want everything ready to rock and roll, and I'm still looking for a new music vendor. We had talked about.
I am happy to. I'll be going to see them play again this Friday.
This Friday.
But I did not want to ask yet because I make a practice of not asking for something unless I'm serious about it, and I don't want to ask.
I
these
think we're
gentlemen
serious
if
about it.
If they're and we do want to come back to the whole idea of let's make sure we're selecting the artists that we want and the variety that we want and all of that. And if there were any other musicians that were going to be considered, I'd want to leave that to the committee to be talking about and to decide. And then if the decision was, yeah, go ahead and ask this group, then I will ask.
Seems that
I know that they are available.
My big thing is I like to have the musicians put it in advance
Okay.
as the first ones that are set in place because and then everything kind of involves about.
Well, if it's
We're-
acceptable, then if there is no other music artist, then I'm happy to go ahead and ask them.
Can you readdress to
confirmation for
what
next Tuesday.
exactly what they do and what kind of musicians they are? And
4 older gentlemen. They're called the Colorado Bandits. If you Google them,
They're
you'll find
awesome.
They are. And if you Google, and like I told you, I had them come
Can
play
we
at a private
dance?
event at my house. It was a blast.
I think they'd be wonderful then. I think we just
I will
move
ask
forward.
them, and I will ask them if they would be kind enough to do it, no charge. And that's the reason why I'm holding off and asking, because I don't want to ask for something like that unless I mean it, that we want them, and we're not going to come back and go, oh no, we've decided we're going with another artist. I'm not doing that. So, are we okay with me asking them?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I will do that, and I will have that information back for next
And
Tuesday.
if they require a charge, let's figure out what that would be and try to bring our costs down. But
I'll be able to share all that
musicians.
Tuesday. Yes, I will
That'd
be able to
great.
share all that Tuesday, but these gentlemen are wonderful. And
So do we have a dance floor to put out there?
We could rent one, but again, that's another cost.
It's another cost.
I don't know.
Because you do need
The
one
driveway.
with them, don't you? They're good.
We can
guys.
dance in the
They're-
grass.
They are, y'all,
We
they
normally
are
don't
great.
want that because
That
people
happen
tear
all
up
the
the
time.
grass.
Yes, and people dance in the grass all the time. They're great. Okay, so we'll Art Walk community meeting next Tuesday, and that's when we'll discuss the artists.
What you found out?
And then definitely the music. Okay.
So
And-
I won't be able to attend till 3 o'clock because I have to pick
Okay.
up my son from school.
Okay.
all right.
So if you take a little break between your 2 meetings, I can
break.
come into the second meeting.
Thank you,
And then room by room docents tour for sure. What kind of update would you like to share?
Well, we were scheduled to meet last month, but we ended up getting tied up with the patrons and whatever else we're doing, so it never really happened. I think what I have in mind, we had a little discussion. We actually have a lot of information that's available Actually, this brochure you guys did is marvelous. We have the self-guided tour, which is pretty good, the dockets tour, and also that spiral-bound book. My thoughts would be, one, to have a simple handout from people come. And I was thinking it might be something along this line. We could use it as a front. I think it's pretty nice. Could open up the first page, just a very brief information, open it up. I kind of like graphic things, maybe a couple floor plans, just a very brief, maybe bullet points of specific things that maybe interested people walk through the house. So just look at it, not spend any time reading it, and then maybe the back page has a little more information. But the key for this would be just a handout that's very simple that people can walk with, not feeling they have to read the whole thing, which most people wouldn't have sending at the door. So that's a thought on that.
Apologies, I have to go to the next meeting.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks
Good
for
to see
being
all you
here.
guys. Been
Good to
a
see
little
you.
bit here.
This one, I think you guys did, 2 years ago?
Last year, well, yeah, it was
Whenever.
2 years ago.
I think
and
it's
it-
excellent
yeah,
as
it's-
handouts
it's
people can take
approved.
with them. They could be included if we have any mailings,
Yeah.
if we do mailings.
Yeah.
But that's very good. And then we talked about having a booklet that would be, I guess maybe it's a combination of Doctor's Tour, a booklet that people could walk through if they really want to spend time, and then reading as they walk through, and then something they can take with them. And maybe it's a purchase thing, but something that would have a lot of this information we have. Be nice to include some graphics, maybe some photos, so it becomes actually a little like a pamphlet or
It's a
booklet.
booklet.
Right.
Yeah.
That would have what we feel is important information about the house and the history and furnishings.
Right.
So
Excellent.
that's, I think, kind of where I'm at. I think we've had a couple conversations,
Mm-hmm.
but certainly need to sit down, get in our committee meetings, spend more time to actually scope out what our intent is, what we see
Mm-hmm.
in these, whatever documents we end up with, and then obviously.
Right.
Jeffrey, I bought a booklet at the Stanley Hotel. It just dawned on me, which might be kind of what you're
Okay.
thinking about.
Do you have that? Oh, perfect.
I'll get it to you.
Great. I love the Stanley Hotel, the whole complex.
I was just there this weekend
It is marvelous.
on Sunday, so yeah.
Have you been to the Stanley Hill Museum?
Mhm.
It's fabulous too. It's different from the hotel, but
Yeah,
okay.
the home.
So this item is really now going to be more a room by room tour booklet. Am I right in the title that we're going to start to call it? Because while we'll have a brochure,
Yeah.
of course, the booklet is,
Right.
is the project.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. So from going forward, we're going to identify
This is
this
the
as
actual
room by
title
room.
that is going to be printed on the piece
Unknown
itself.
yet, but at this point,
Okay.
the room by room tour booklet is
So
as
not
accurate
docent.
a description.
Not the
no,
docent.
not the docent, but that's as accurate a description as that I think we have as far as a title for now
Yeah.
to refer to.
Right.
Okay, so room by room tour booklet.
Also looking at it is a brief handout.
And yes, and
Not
that
this,
and
but-
no, and yeah, not that, but something along the line if that's what you're
Correct.
talking about, like what you
Yeah.
just said.
Yeah.
So we'll refer to that then.
Okay.
Is that
Yeah, if we get it a little clearer so it's less
yeah?
confusing.
But anyway,
As far as the name?
so do
Yeah.
you?
Oh,
sorry,
absolutely.
that doesn't
Do you want to also then piggyback on Tuesday so that we can kind of?
I mean, I'm okay with that if everybody else
Yeah,
is
I can
up
do
for
that.
the afternoon.
All right. So then is that going to be like a 3:30? So
Isn't
so we'll
that-
have a 1:30, a 2:30, and a 3:30, complete by 4:30.
Isn't that PEO?
Yeah, so you just need to be done by 5:30, so that'll be fine.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. So let's plan for that.
And then the other piece of that was the online piece, which I did meet with Rachel about that. And just to confirm, are you talking about a booklet and a printed handout?
Well, the booklet would be for purchase.
Right.
That printed handout is a single trifold that can be, in lieu of giving everyone 2 legal size pages
Yeah.
at the door. That.
Because the last that we talked about in the meeting was that it was, there's sort of 3 tiers. There's a little piece of information on a placard or whatever, that gives like a brief overview of each room or whatever it may be, and then also you can talk to the people in the house and get some information. The next tier would be the QR tour, which is where we asked Rachel to be involved.
Right.
And so I did talk with her about that and got some guidance on what that could look like. So people could go online and then tour,
less
online
paper.
throughout the house. And then for purchase would be the booklets. And moving away from a free
Paper.
printed handout,
Well, the
for
free-
environmental purposes, and if people want to take something away, we should encourage them to purchase the booklet,
Right.
and not be giving a handout.
But the free printed handout would be that one single.
Still, the
Brochure.
information is going to be online. We don't need to be printing these for every open house any longer. This is the point of putting this together, is to alleviate some of the printing, but also like the information is still going to be freely available online, and we want to encourage people to purchase a booklet and not walk away with a free handout anyway. I understand the booklet would be more involved, but
Well, if you're
that's
doing the
kind of two
QR
options.
codes and the little displays that point things out in each of the rooms,
Yeah.
that should pretty much cover it,
Yeah.
really. And then if you've got docents that answer questions, if they want to know more, what kind of wood is in here, whether that's our responsibility, and if you want to read more about what is in every room, why, there's a book to buy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we need to move away from the printed materials. It can be available online if people want to reference it later, or they can purchase the booklet.
So basically, you're wanting us to do a detailed booklet, and then
Well, we were
Can-
going to do the detailed booklet.
we
That's
are.
our project.
That's our project. But this information we need to work with to make sure that this information is online and available.
Yeah. So what Rachel talked about is that sort of like a QR tour.
Yep.
That and I know the initial request was to have different QR codes for each place in the house. Her recommendation would be, for ease of use and for people to actually be able to enjoy what they're doing, instead of scanning a QR code in every room, you scan the QR code and then it takes you to one site or one page of the Callahan website, and there are different sections that's this room, this room, this room. It could even be like we saw with the patrons, where there's an accordion, so it's dining room. You drop down, you get the information for the accordion. That way people aren't having to like scan each room.
The only
and
reason why I said scanning each room initially was because that's how they do it. If you're going and looking at art pieces at the art museum or whatever else, and you want to get all the information, it's each individual piece.
This, I think, is also more accessible for people that aren't physically
Technically.
in the home to refer to the information. And like if her example was if somebody's bringing in their grandmother or whomever that isn't used to like doing the QR, you get them set up with it, and then they can do it throughout rather than pulling your phone out every
And
5
that's
seconds.
exactly why we need Rachel to give us information
Yeah.
personally, because this is
So
not
her
my
thought was,
expertise.
but you can have QR codes throughout the house in a few locations, but it's
all
the
the
same code that takes you to that online tour, and then people can do the drop down or whatever per space, just to get all the information, in one place. And then she can also track traffic to the website via the QR code, which is pretty cool.
Which is what initially that's the whole point I was pushing the QR code to begin with, is that we could track things better.
Yeah, and then potentially with the tabletop placard or whatever, it could be like the little map that's like, you are here, or this is the dining room, so people know what they're looking. Not everybody knows this is called the music room or whatever, just so people know where they're at in the house and how that correlates to the online tour. And so basically, she's just waiting on. She just needs a Word doc of the information and what we want that to say, and then she can put that together for us.
so
But-
basically, you're doing your brochure so
Well,
that it's going to go
yeah.
online.
Well,
Right.
that's,
But
that's
but
something that we may want to talk about. We may not want all the content that's in the booklet.
Right, because we want people to purchase the booklet. That should
No,
So-
I'm saying
Yeah.
the one page thing.
Well, the one page is that brochure that we did it a couple of years ago. We had it approved and it was all set to go, and then we stopped. I guess the city said, "Oh, let's not print that." But then there was the need to print the 2 pages, being one about the Callahans and the house,
Because
and the
we
other
didn't have
about
the other one.
restoration and preservation. And that was in part to comply with our grant and the efforts to show the reason for
Sure,
why it's
and we can
necessary,
share that
and
material.
then also to share that we thank History Colorado for
Yeah,
Yeah,
and we can
so,
do that on the
um,
website. There's no reason to
Right.
keep printing something, especially if we want to encourage people to purchase a booklet. So we're
You said Rachel is working on this.
well, she's
Rachel.
she's waiting for the information from us, and then she can put together the online portion. So that it's
Okay.
a 3-tiered thing. It's like you come in and you can get just really basic information that's on the placard, and by talking to you all, you can go a little more in depth with the online tour, or you can go further in depth by
By
purchasing
buying
a booklet.
Okay. So basically, the book list is the really in-depth one.
Yeah.
And then the tour online would be basic information or a little higher.
Little high, yeah. The real basic
little
would be
more
just
in
what's on the piece of paper in the house, or the the placard or whatever that's
The placard.
set out in the house. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I understand the online tour pretty well. Those are serious. How about the casual person comes in who's not interested in the online tour? Or the
Yeah.
keynote?
Then the very basic information is
On a
presented
placard.
on a placard and verbally.
So do we want to hand them anything?
No.
Nothing.
So
at all?
no handouts.
No more printed handouts. This is
So it'd be like you are here, and this is part of the original
a couple
4 rooms
tidbits
of the
about
house,
each room.
just a little
Yeah,
blurb.
and then whatever additional information verbally that comes up in your conversations, and then more in depth online, further in depth in the purchase the little booklet.
And the reason for not doing that, the casual visitor, something.
Environmentally and cost effective, we don't need to be printing handouts that most people, honestly, I'm sorry, but a lot of times it might just end up in the trash.
I also don't think we
Um,
just have casual visitors, right?
Right.
People don't just come into the house, so it's
Yeah.
only
Well,
scheduled
during
Yeah,
the
it's
open house. Yeah.
anyone
And to
casually
encourage
coming in
people
the
to
house
purchase the
for
booklet,
the
why
For
would
an
you
event that we
purchase
are
something
hosting.
if you're getting a portion of it for free?
Well, if we hand them something, it'd be very, very, very basic, and it would not.
But we want to move away from handing out any more printed materials.
Okay, that's why I'm,
So basically, we're not doing.
I don't say
print-
challenging,
yeah.
but questioning that.
Yeah.
It does kind of put an obstacle up for people who are a little bit more traditional. I think we
Old?
No.
Then maybe you have a
Experience.
laminated one that's
Call it, whatever
Yeah,
lovely
that's a good
adjective
idea.
you'd like to,
Well,
but
they could.
it's more of a matter
Yeah.
of.
Well, what
Laminated.
if we did
There
one
are
that was
people who-
laminated
Yeah,
that
that's
they
what
would
Kristen
just leave?
just suggested, which is a good suggestion, to have a couple laminated versions of
That's
whichever
a good
that I think
idea.
people could carry throughout, and then they leave here when they go.
I think that's a great idea,
Mhm.
and it's environmentally more sound. And then for the people that are more technically challenged, I'm going to be kinder, that they can still use this. Because let's be clear, there are people in their 90s or so that don't know how to do this or don't have access to this any longer.
Yeah, we want to make it
They
accessible.
do that at
for everyone,
the
so.
botanical gardens. They have one room where it has a lot of information, and you can just pick up a laminated thing,
Right.
And
and
then
it
return
explains
it.
it, and then you return it
Okay.
before you walk out.
Yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
idea.
So let's look at doing a laminated version of
Maybe we can
this
discuss
tool.
it in the committee
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
Or
think
flesh
that's-
it out a little bit.
That's reasonable, because obviously there's environmental concerns, there's cost concerns, also benefit the people who are coming.
Yes.
We can't just not
Yeah.
want to throw paper away or not spend money, but we need to do something that benefits those who are coming. I think
Yeah.
that should be the prime.
Yeah.
Yeah,
prime
I think this is a perfect
reason, and
solution
we-
to that.
It's a
Let's-
win-win for
Let's dive
everybody.
into that then at the
Yeah.
committee meeting. So that's good. So that's that. Anything else?
So I just want to make it clear that this is not intended for the spring open house. But that's
No.
not going to happen at this point.
No.
is it? Okay.
No. No. No.
Okay.
We're not
I
anywhere
want it
close to
done
being
by
ready for
now.
that. No. All right. So
And
that's.
I'm sorry, I do have one more question. The difference between this and like the Callahan book new edition.
So that's a different book.
That's a totally different book.
Okay. Just thinking about in terms of developing this, having that in mind, and
This
Yeah.
is more
what the
readily
difference
available
would be.
and going to be printed and published more timely.
I was just going to share much of the same information. Yep.
Okay, so the next item is on to new business. We have the spring open house, which we know. We're set for next, 2 weeks on the
It's the
24th from 5 to 7. And we usually, board members usually arrive about 15 minutes before, and then plan to stay about 15 minutes after if needed for any cleanup work. So that's basically a 2.5 hour commitment of time. We need to set up the patron table. Need to decide where we want to place that. We probably don't want to, obviously, don't want to clog up the foyer. I'm even questioning whether we put that in the parlor. It may be still a bit too congested in those front 2 rooms. Are there any thoughts?
Can I suggest the library?
What do you all think about the library? Do you think that seems like a good choice for the patrons program display and table?
Or diner.
Or the dining room?
Which room's the library? I'm sorry.
The library is what
Back
Callahan's
there.
office was.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would work.
I had initially thought here, but I feel like the library might be better for flow of traffic because it could get congested here if you're trying to talk to people around
Yeah.
these,
It's a little too
spaces
congested
and-
in here because the
Yeah,
space
yeah.
confinement.
Yeah.
Whereas there
That
are
can be-
tables.
that can be
in-
completely open with just the table
Yeah.
for the display.
Plus, I do want to sell artwork at that, so either that could be here or that could be in the parlor. But
I think we do the artwork here,
Yeah.
and then we can do the patrons program in the library. Is
Sounds
my
good.
suggestion.
Okay.
Because you'd
It
have
is.
a nice line of sight from
The parlor.
the parlor into the library
right.
to see a poster board. Yeah.
Right.
So you have a question?
Is the library prominent enough space for this patrons program?
I think we direct people
everyone
there.
will go through
And
there.
everybody goes
Till you
in.
get to the bathroom.
Everybody ends up there,
Yeah.
believe it or not. Just how the flow of the open houses kind of go. Everybody always ends up in the library.
They can't come
And
this
a-
way,
and a-
they have to go
Yeah.
that way.
and so they kind of end up there anyway.
A major attraction in that room is the curved
And you can point it
glass
out.
window. So we can always tell people, go see the curved glass window in the library. And they're
So
coming
it's
into-
actually
so it is kind of
it's a win-win.
And I think with that room, if we're moving all of those tables and chairs out and
we
just
only have
have
one
the display table
Mhm.
and a couple of chairs for the board members who are going to be there, I think that provides
Yeah.
room for flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a good flow space.
Did you have another thought?
Oh, no, my thought was having the front room, people come in, you hit them up pretty quickly.
We have kind of the check-in table there, so I don't think there's
But-
room for
Well,
both.
that's fine, it's just
Congested.
my vision.
Yeah.
But if you feel that enough people get back there, then that.
They tend to work.
And we can-
just
we
from
can
doing the
certainly-
tours, is they tend to all settle there, and we don't want it upstairs because not everybody goes upstairs.
Well, the film will be playing, right, on loop?
Yeah.
Up in
So-
the upstairs meeting room. So that's kind of turns into a theater
Not the new
room.
one, but
For that.
the old one.
And the guest room's way too small, and this is.
Plus, then we're kind of spread out if we're
And,
getting a little bit of information at the front,
Yeah.
and then some over here too. People kind of getting it
Yeah.
throughout rather than just getting beat over the head with it in
Yeah.
the beginning. And then
It's like the milk and the eggs in the back of the grocery store.
Yeah, that and medications and all the important stuff is in the back room. So, okay, well, all right,
Yep.
then we'll plan for that.
So the
I think-
patrons is like the big rollout, and then we also will have the public event banners ready to go for that too. The ones that we
I was just-
decided on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Okay.
ask you, are they the ones that are gonna go on the fence, or are they the same that you did for
They're the hangers, but I did get them a little bit different so that they've got a bar in the top and the bottom, so that they'll hang a little bit better than the engagement ones. But yeah, so it's 2 on for over here directing people around, and then 2 on this welcoming people in the front.
So they're on the pillars.
They're on the pillars.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's see how it goes and see if it pulls enough street.
Yeah, I
Right.
think it'll be, these will be more useful in like the bigger summer events and things like
Yeah.
that, but we might as well use them for
Oh,
any
yeah.
time that the house is open.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I still am in favor of doing more of a landscape, larger size one
Yeah.
that can literally hang on that lower
Yeah,
fence out there. and
I
on
didn't
the
understand
west
that it was
and
going to be on the
south.
banner.
Yeah,
The
there's
banners were going to be on the
There's not
pillar.
enough room on the horizontal fence to hang anything. You'd have to stake it into the ground.
Just a couple things about those banners. My boyfriend one day says, "What are those things hanging on the pillars at Callahan's?" And then I had somebody else leave a message on my phone. "What are those things hanging on the?"
Yeah.
So, yeah,
They're
those
hard
were.
to see.
It was hard to see them.
It's
and they
hard.
kinda got-
That is
Yeah,
what
well,
I
that's why these
envisioned.
ones have the
Yeah.
will have
Yeah.
the bar to keep them.
So one other
straight.
thing that I've been thinking about
And I
is
think that corner one was tough too, having both. So this will just be the two out here and the two out there, so they're not trying to hang on the same thing
Yeah.
together. So yeah.
so that I looked into the feather banners.
Mm-hmm.
Those are expensive. Wow.
Those are
But
the
they come in
ones that,
different heights.
Are
Yeah.
the tall
Mhm.
ones, right?
Mhm.
That have a
Pole.
stand, a pole, but the flag can kind of
Right.
wave
Mhm.
back and forth.
So I didn't know if the city does anything like that or not, but that might be something we might want to think about if we've got some funding for that.
Yeah,
But,
well, we can see how these go.
yeah. 'Cause-
The initial engagement ones were kind of a trial run, and these will hopefully be an upgrade from those. And if we need to do something different moving forward, we can do that.
Yeah.
The feather ones are expensive, but they do have the poles, and they have the stand, and
And they're a nice visual. They're highly visible and they're attractive.
Well, we can talk about that for the
So, yes.
future. Right
Yeah.
now, these
But yes.
are already
I do
underway,
need to-
So.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I do need to let you know I won't be here for the open house.
Oh, okay.
I'm leaving for a trip, and I thought it was the next morning.
That's okay.
Lo and behold, it's the 24th.
Well,
Sorry.
enjoy your
So
trip. It
I have a
happens.
question. Julie and Jeff and I are new. We have not done one of these open houses. So what is the expectation for the board members
okay.
to,
As a board member, you're to be here for when it's a spring open house, something that is short amount of time, small amount of time. All board members are requested to be here. You will have your docent's guide
And a name
in
tag.
hand, and you will have your name tag on.
okay.
And then that way, if anyone's asking you any question about
Will we
it,
have name tags for
then you
board
can
members?
answer that. We'll need a couple of board members at the patrons table, and we can even switch that out so that 2 are there for the first hour, and then switch it out for 2 in the second hour, so that everyone has the opportunity to have a little rotation. Those who are not at the table will be out in kind of separate rooms. You can kind of choose a room of your interest and say, I'll be in this room. And so that way you're there and available for answering any questions as guests come through that room. But you have everything in the packet
So if you
So we've got
in
it.
your hands while you are in the house and in any room.
Okay.
You
At
can
any time,
answer
you can
questions.
answer anything.
But it's easier if you know which room you're going to be and you read the docent's guide prior, so that you kind of have a spiel.
I can email that out.
That would be
We
great.
have printed.
I think they have
We have
printed
printed
copies
ones.
of
Got printed
them.
copies.
I think
Okay,
we
great.
have printed
So yes, if you'll take a look through those between now and then,
Sure.
and see if there's a room that is of interest, room or two that is of interest to you, and then when we get together and we're here at 4:45, we'll say who's going to be in what room,
And then we decide.
and we just kind
Okay.
of work together so that everyone
Okay.
has the chance to cover a room
And
or
we-
rooms that they want to.
In this drawer here is where we keep the name tags.
So we'll
Okay.
get that to you, and you'll have your name tag and your docent
Okay.
print out here, so you don't have to bring your own.
Okay.
But you'll have it in your hands, and so
And so then
that is pretty much.
Okay.
The other thing that
The-
might be helpful if you haven't seen it already is the reviewing the video. It's on the website, on the Callahan's history page. It's about 30 minutes.
About 45.
But
yeah.
just to,
Yeah,
for some more information.
refresher.
If you have time between now and then, it's a good overview.
Okay.
and just pick up a couple of interesting tidbits, and then you can share that with people.
Yeah.
You can
It's
ask
okay
them,
to
have you
say,
been
I don't
here?
know, or let me.
Or let me check.
Let me get
Find
back to you.
out,
I'll
yeah.
find
So
out.
we're not going to be handing out the legal size pages.
We will at this one because we
Okay.
don't have
All
an
right.
alternative.
Okay.
But as soon as this
Is done.
Read
other
through.
project is complete, we're
You
going to
do
move away from the
have-
printed
Right. We've got
materials.
the
So you do have the legal size, those 2 legal size pages. One is about the Callahans and the house, the history, and it has the floor plan on the back. The second one is about the restoration and preservation and the efforts that have been done on the house through the years. Go ahead and take time and read through both of those. You'll have them also in your docent's packet just to have for quick pull out and reference if you need. But it's helpful to read through those in advance, and then that way you kind of
Don't
bring
feel
yourself up to
overwhelmed.
speed. It gives you that overview that is most helpful to have when you're being a
Okay.
docent.
And then do you all have the docent's guide as well? Because that's a
Yeah,
separate
that's
thing.
what
That's a
they
separate
You
thing.
guys have that too. Okay, that's like the information for each room, the detail about what type of woodwork and things like that.
Because they'll ask.
You have it right.
Yeah.
You have it right. You know.
I'm sure I do.
Okay.
Yeah. In the
If
book.
in
In our book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
And it's
multiple.
okay not to have it memorized.
No,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
no. Nobody has everything
I bet I've
memorized.
done that with
You
you.
just read through
No one has everything
You have a
memorized.
better
And that is why
highlight.
everyone gets
So,
had it. It's in a
like
folder
when I'm
here,
in
and everybody,
the
when they're
foyer,
acting,
I'll
serving
say,
as a
first of all,
docent,
have you ever
they
been
have
here
their
before?
folder in
Okay,
hand.
great.
and-
I'd love to have a new
and
person.
So all of their information is in there,
And then you can talk
pull it
about
out
the
and refer to
woodwork
it,
and that this
you
is
know.
all of
Gotcha.
it,
All
and
this
this
stuff.
is that.
Just kind
and
of,
then-
All right.
And
Just
it's
wanted to
fireplace.
confirm what.
Yes, how that
Just-
works.
you could-
That's a good
Yeah.
question.
Do you
I
find
didn't
most
think
people
to.
interested in that
Yeah,
sort of
I'm
detail?
glad you asked the
God,
question.
Oh, really?
Thank you,
Okay,
Becca.
you never had
All right,
idea.
so
And talk about
um,
JCPenney's. I mean, talk.
I think that covers everything
Jive
regarding
about
the
certain
spring open
things, and then
house.
you're just like, yeah.
Brittany, you'll
They're
go
excited.
ahead and send the email to our Callahan House email group.
The
Right?
invitation
Yeah, that email.
for the committee meetings,
No,
the-
no, the email.
the marketing emails.
No, it's the email that was included in the patrons.
Yeah. So the marketing for that event.
Oh, well, it was just, I just called it, the subject spring open house unveiling a patron program.
Yeah, it's on my calendar. For
Okay,
for
so
free
you'll
date.
send that out to our Callahan House email group. Great.
Are
Okay.
we tying ribbons on the bookmarks? Because I might be able to help with that, so.
That sounds great.
Do you want to set a
If we
meeting for
can-
that, or?
Will we
Well, we need
have
to get those
them
printed first, so I'll get the
for-
changes made. It's not gonna be till next week. I'm gone
Right.
the next 2 days to a conference, so
Okay.
get those changes made as soon as possible. Send it out for final review. Once you confirm that it's good to go, we'll get them printed, and then we can set a time to do the ribbons.
Yeah.
We also might be able to have staff do that while they're here.
Okay.
Sourcing the ribbons. What kind of ribbon do you want?
Green.
Does somebody want to?
Well, just, I think green was the idea, but
So it goes with
something-
the outside of the house.
Just something that complements the green, not. Maybe I don't
Do y'all
even
wanna
know if,
source
like a
what
dead
ribbon you
green.
want?
Do you
That
have
would
an
be
idea of,
ideal.
of
I'd
color?
match that green.
You try
I
and
just-
match
I would
that?
too.
I would,
Okay, so I suppose a match of that color.
Does anybody
green.
have time to get some ribbon? That
I'll
would
go
be
find
helpful.
ribbon for you.
Thanks,
Okay.
Candy. Appreciate you.
All right. And
And
if they
we're
happen
printing
to
like
be
100,
done,
right?
Well, how many do we want to print? Historically,
Yeah.
the spring open house
is
hasn't had a ton of people come through.
right.
They don't have to, it doesn't have to happen, actually.
Well,
If
we
you don't
want
want
them.
'em.
No, we want them. We want them
We
for the
do.
spring open
We-
house
we
for
have
the
ribbon, you mean?
unveiling of the patrons program is.
Do you mean the
part
ribbon?
of
No, I
the
meant
house.
the ribbons.
Oh yeah, the ribbon is very
Okay.
sweet and gives it a little extra interest. I think if you happen to have them printed by next Tuesday,
That's not going to happen.
not gonna happen. Okay, never mind. But then I guess just when you have them printed, then let us know. And the number again, I think. I don't know. I'm gonna guess at a 200 because I'm thinking right now the size of one of them. You can easily get 4 out of one page. So
Okay, so we want 200 actual bookmarks.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you think that's do you think that's reasonable?
I would have gone with 100
Or whatever
to
the
to
printer
150.
batch is.
Yeah.
Yeah, closest
We can do whatever.
batch to 200, but. I
100
think-
or 200?
I think it's safer to go with 200 just in
Okay.
case. Okay.
They can always be used, right?
Always,
Right.
always.
We each want
even
one.
yes, and even if we're modifying it later, they're still good to use. So they won't expire. All right. What I would do right now, real quick, is that it is noon. How would you all feel about putting the manager's report off to next month? Because that can then include the March information.
Does anybody have questions about the report or anything that they wanted to go over?
I've got some questions, but I don't think we have the time to go through them.
Okay.
So let's put that into next month's items from staff, and then we are good to go. Items from the board. I have a couple of things I want to share with you all. First off was the History Colorado Heart Award and panel discussion was quite interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to scan this. Well, I don't know if I should scan this or just bring it to next Tuesday. I'll bring it to next Tuesday. History Colorado is doing a new podcast. You can scan their code and start to listen to the podcast. I'll bring that. And then learning about the repurposing of the historic building in Denver that used to be the Johnson & Wales University, which was actually originally the first
The
women's
women's
college in Colorado, 1907. And so they basically took the dorms, repurposed them, and they are now going to be affordable housing for that area, which they've renamed that area. It's really exciting information.
So Karen and I both went to that event.
That was good.
It was really interesting. Learned a lot. Got to meet a lot of things. And on that note, are you done, or can I quickly say?
You go ahead and finish up.
We have our centennial coming up. We're 150 years as a state, and we as a board need to be looking forward to what we should be doing for next year's celebrations. And I think that's an important thing, that we could do something based off of the state being 150 years.
Yeah.
And have that a celebration of some kind. And then I also wanted to state that Sean has stepped forward. People that don't know, my husband Sean McCoy, he serves on the city council. He has stepped forward to be our board liaison for the city for the summer months, and will be attending our board meetings as many and often as he can to make sure that we have a city a liaison from the city council.
That's very nice. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. The last little bit, and I'm sorry, and this is worth taking a moment to do, is that April is National Volunteer Month. So I just want to say thank you to all of my fellow volunteers, because without us and without staff, we don't accomplish the wonderful things that we do. So on the note of volunteerism, I'm just going to read 7 quick quotes, and I think some of you may be familiar with them. Volunteers don't get paid not because they're worthless, but because they're priceless. That's Sherry Anderson. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Margaret Mead. Volunteers do not necessarily have the time. They have the heart. Elizabeth Andrew. Volunteers are the only human beings on the face of the earth who reflect this nation's compassion, unselfish caring, patience, and just plain loving one another. Irma Bombeck. How wonderful it is that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world. Anne Frank. I've learned that you shouldn't go through life with a catcher's mitt on both hands. You need to be able to throw something back. Maya Angelou. And the final one, volunteering is the ultimate exercise in democracy. You vote in elections once a year, but when you volunteer, you vote every day about the kind of community you want to live in. That author's unknown.
Those are great.
I just want to share that with you all. Thank you all, and acknowledge all of your work. And so it is now 12:03. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Maureen moves we adjourn. Diana seconds. And no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All unanimously approved.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.